Mohamed Patel wins here.
Other than Rd.3.
Oh, he's done it!
Look at these two go!
He's going to do it! His first victory!
The World Championship is done.
What a race it's been.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Formula SimRacing World Championship in 2022 for round 3 here at Matsusaka. It is a rerun race here today at a circuit that takes absolutely no prisoners whatsoever, twisting, turning up and down all day long. Matsusaka is a real challenge for all of the drivers and has been so for over a decade now in the Formula SimRacing World Championship. Despite all of that, our championship leader Colin Sport was only 7th here in his only appearance at this circuit here last season, but he's going to need to do a little bit better today to conserve the 41-point championship lead that he currently has. Let's see who's going to rise to the challenge today in a 53-lap race. My name is Ewan. I'll be alongside Lewis McGlade. It's going to be another fantastic one here, Lewis. I'm very much looking forward to it. A couple of months delayed, but here we are.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been nice to have gotten on with it a bit earlier on in the year, but it is what it is. We are back to race, and of course, the last time we raced, or attempted to race around here, Colin Sport did end up taking that pole. But this is it's an important circuit in the Formula SimRacing World Championship. In the last 5 seasons, the winner of here ended up going on to win the championship. The only year that's not a part of that is 2019, when Martin Gosby won in that fantastic 3-way showdown between himself, Jone Simoncic and Peter Beljak late on in the race, all 3 of them finishing by around about a tenth of a second. Who says you can't race around here? I mean, they definitely put an end to that bet.
Yes, they did on that particular day. And indeed, Simoncic himself sealed a championship at this circuit back in 2020 when Peter Beljak ended up spinning into the wall and put an end to his title hopes. And Simoncic won his first title of what turned out to be second title indeed, of what turned out to be 3 in a row. The championship looking very different on this occasion. Colin Sport comes into today 3 on the bounce in terms of race victories, and he hasn't finished off the podium all season as well. 41 points is his advantage over Alex Siebel. We're technically halfway now. 5 races down, 5 to go. I mean, it's looking good for him.
It's looking ridiculously good for him at the moment. Like I say, from the 5 races that we've actually completed, 4 victories. Incredibly strong, and he's coming to a circuit where he's feeling confident. I don't know if they've had a little bit of confidence blown in the sense that all of the other teams know exactly what their pace is, because you can obviously go and they'll go and consult the previous attempt of qualifying around here and think, right, okay, those were the times that Unicorns of Love and Netrex were able to do around here. So the other teams know what they can bring to the table, but still they've got to be feeling very, very confident in this session. And maybe now that it's been really confirmed after 5 races complete, they are the ones to beat, and that is quite a lot of pressure to have on your shoulders when you're a young team.
Certainly is. It's a lot closer, I can say, in the teams championship, thankfully, for us. We might get a good fight once again in there that we've had over the last few years. Excuse me. Over the last few years in the World Championship. Only 2 points separate Unicorns of Love from Colin Sport and Carlos Martin, who are the regulars there, ahead of Oracle Red Bull Racing eSports. So that'll be one to watch as well through the final 5 races of the season. But let's have a little look then at Colin Sport, shall we? As we go on board with him here and on board with this Matsusaka circuit. It is so challenging. There are corners everywhere. There is no respite at all. And Spork already into the first corner there, the first right-hander already having to make his first correction of what is going to be many over this lap.
Yeah, and you will see quite a lot of this through the lap. It's a circuit which requires so much commitment. You do end up wrestling the car around a little bit, coming up through Dunlop and then down towards D2 Degner's an incredibly difficult part of the track. In fact, back in 2014, Bonner House managed to completely drop it in there. Even the very best are able to drop the car going through the first Degner into the hairpin, where you kind of want quite a late apex because you want a nice straight drive, because it's such a long drive from here all the way around to Spoon. But this is actually, as much as you don't really think about it, this is a proper overtaking opportunity. If you are brave, you can make it stick, but it can go wrong so quickly.
It can indeed. We've seen a lot of contact down the years through that particular corner. Not too much slowing down there, it has to be said. The speed stays very high down over this straight and down towards the 130R, of course, the famous 130R. Are we going to see any moves through there here this year? Indeed, we'll have to wait and see, of course. But it is always very, very brave place to go for it. First couple of times are coming in. Then Jens Braxuk sets the early pace. But what about our championship leader, who comes up towards the line right now? And he slots himself into second place. Braxuk's always a very good qualifier, so it's not exactly too surprising to see that, as we see Sander Callas having another great performance at getting up towards Zolt Zooks, his teammate there in second and third. But we yet to see Alex Siebel come over the line right now, and Michi Hoyer as well, who's coming into the final couple of corners right now.
Yeah, of course, they're not only limited on time in the session, they're limited on the amount of laps they can do as well. For anyone who's just joined us for the Formula Sim Racing World Championship, hello, obviously. But they only have 3 timed laps they can do within this session. Michi Hoyer crosses the line and only goes up to 9th. Those laps, Alex Siebel, I was going to say straight up into second. That lap, though, from Jens Braxuk is absolutely blistering. I think they got into, I think it was a 26.9, though, if memory serves, that Colin Spork ended up doing in the previous attempt of this qualifying session. Of course, a few months back, but still a 27.1 to kick straight off in the session is very, very impressive indeed.
It is straight out the gate there. Here's just Chatzipantelis, by the way, in 14th position. As you see the standings on the right-hand side there. Chatzipantelis obviously fresh off of a pro performance in the Pro Championship. Finished outside the top 10, unfortunately. I think it was 12th or 13th at the end of the day. But he's here in the World Championship as well. As we look at the standings on the right-hand side, Spork leads by 41 points ahead of Siebel. There's a fairly big gap back to Roybers, and Dennis Jordan is down in 4th. 2 bad races strung together. 6th position penalty on the last race as well at Spa, presumably due to that late incident at Le Com with, was it Hoyer at the time? Or I can't remember. But it was someone that they made contact with through those final chicanes. And so 12th and 15th on his last 2 races, and he all of a sudden has got an awful lot of work to do.
But has been finding his form quite a bit in the Formula Pro series. And the thing is with that, as much as it's not a one-to-one, it is a similar car. Listen, it's the same car itself, but there are some slight tweaks in the form of how the tyre wear and such works and how long the races are in that. But still, a little bit of confidence being put into place over there might boost his mentality in this. But obviously they will use this as a little bit of a testing ground anyway, as much as they don't race around the likes of Matsusaka and such in that championship. It's still they'll be experimenting with various bits. Chatzipantelis comes through the first sector and doesn't improve this time, and here is Jens Braxuk, your at the moment provisional pole sitter. And is there going to be an improvement over the first sector split? Yes, there is.
It certainly is. He's a fantastic qualifier, as I said before. Already 3 pole positions here in the World Championship before, looking for a 4th here today. And a little bit of a clip on the inside curve there at the hairpin won't do him any favours. You do need an ideal exit coming towards Spoon here, and that is not exactly the ideal way to do it. But either way, he's out there anyway. We'll see what his second sector time is, of course, once he's through this either one long corner or 2 smaller ones, if you like. Out running as wide as possible, out onto the straight as well, and we'll see what the sector time is. Is it any good for Jens Braxuk, and are we going to see our first 26 of the day with him coming up towards 130R? It is not as good through the middle sector, but he's got the final chicane to maybe make up a bit of time. Slightly struggles to get towards the first apex there, but he does just about make it. Squirming on the exit as well, dear me, on the exit there now. But towards the line, is it going to be an improvement? No, it's not, although it's a very, very close lap time compared to his first one.
I did find it intriguing because obviously the time set in practice, Collins, Jan Wojnitzer straight up onto the pole, 27.043. No purple sectors, just green across the board. Super lap time there. Alex Siebel is improving in the first sector by a tenth and a bit. But what my thing I was going to point out is in practice, Colin Sport managed to do a 26.780, so incredibly fast, yes. But his first sector was a 31.9. Jens Braxuk on the time that he just set, or was just about to set there, that didn't improve. His first sector was a 31.7. It was 2 tenths faster in the first sector alone than Colin Sport. Loses out a lot of time in that middle and final sector, but still very strong in the first.
Over the line for Alex Siebel, who's 67 thousandths of a second away from a pole position here. Doing very well and propping up the Red Bulls at the minute, with Dennis Jordan down in 8th position. Less than half a second away, of course, but that is still a lot of positions in the World Championship. And Damien Skrovron, 7th place for him. Good qualifying so far from him. Out qualifying comfortably Michi Hoyer so far.
Also another one, obviously the likes of Laurent Kiersmakers and stuff up there. But Adam Rainey, I will say again, has been finding some very impressive form in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship of late. Of course, I noted before at the previous round at Spa, had a couple of top 10 finishes since finishing in the top 10 for the first time in the British Grand Prix. Has finished in the top 10 for all 3 of those races and looks to be qualifying at the moment within the top 10 as well. So clearly, as much as he says, he said to me a bit earlier on that he was struggling a little bit for pace around here. I mean, if struggling for pace is getting inside the top 10, how much he's had a bit of a turnaround in the opening few rounds of this championship, because seemed to struggle in the opening couple to really get into even the top 15 on pace, and now it's kind of how it goes, isn't it? As soon as you get a couple of top 10, suddenly not getting in the top 10 is a complete no-show. It's a disaster. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, it certainly is. I mean, it goes the other way as well, doesn't it? When these things start to go wrong, and you start to go outside the top 10 once, it happens again and again. You start thinking, oh dear, where's this going? But anyway, thankfully for him, it's going the right way at the moment. Meanwhile, on board with Sander Callas, one of the ground effect drivers, of course, along with Zoltzuks, both inside the top 5, the only team to do so so far at Matsusaka in this qualifying session right now. With less than a minute to go, there's not a lot of time to change that. Over through the first sector, no improvements for anybody so far. Chatsipantelis, Brackstock and Callas all slower than their current bests. So it's looking pretty good for Vosnica, but he absolutely has to go all out on this final lap time as well, because Siebel and Brackstock are very, very close indeed. He's going to want to push that advantage out a little bit further, and here he is, here Brackstock is, I should say, trying to just improve a little bit, just about 700ths of a second away right now. It's not an improvement of either of the first sectors. It is still a 31.9 in the first sector, which is not bad, but 2 non-improvements, and with only the chicane to go, it's difficult to see the Hungarian clinching his 4th pole position in the World Championship. That's all time, by the way, not just this season. But it's not going to be an improvement. It's still very good, I have to say. Very good lap time, but not enough for Brackstock.
And it shows, because how much time he lost in that first sector. He's definitely got a couple of tenths in the tank. But Janis Brackstock did obviously have pole at the Malaysian Grand Prix a bit earlier on in the season, but unfortunately retired from that race. Dennis Jordan on screen, 31.8 in the first sector. Very impressive first sector. Wow. Second sector's looking okay. Dropped a couple of tenths in. This is a time that could be looking to get him inside the top 5. And of course, quite a few drivers have finished their lap times. Brackstock, Stute, Callas, Colin Sport, by the way, only 6th position at the moment in qualifying. So he'll be very disappointed with this, and also has cut on the final lap. Dennis Jordan does move inside the top 5, but look at Vojnica. Never mind.
Siebel was going well. Oh, here he is. Siebel is going quite well at the moment. He only needs about 700ths of a second, and he might be able to take pole here at Matsusaka. Both of the Red Bulls performing well after a slow start for Dennis Jordan. A good final lap time from him there to get up into 4th. Where's his teammate going to be? It's not quite as good through the middle sector. He's going to need a storming final couple of corners here. He just about gets it in for the chicane. He needs a smooth exit. There's almost no correction at all from the German. Is this enough to snatch pole away from Jan Vosnica or not? It is not quite enough. It's a 27-1. It's still very, very impressive indeed, but it's not quite enough. He'll be alongside Jan Vosnica on the front row for the Japanese Grand Prix. Brackstock and Jordan behind. A very, very close qualifying session indeed, and the championship leader is indeed down in 7th place.
Super lap time from Jan Vosnica. Absolutely top form to go and grab that pole. Incredible.
Certainly was. An incredible qualifying session there indeed, and we're setting up for a very good race indeed. In the meantime, before we get into it, let's have a look on board with Mitzi Hoyer at the Matsusaka circuit.
Hello everyone, and welcome to today's race day in the Formula Sim Racing 2022 Championship. We are live at Matsusaka for our presentation lap, going around the final chicane, going around the final turn, a little bit of a wheel spin. DRS wide open to start our flying lap here around the Matsusaka Grand Prix circuit. Going down the main straight with 220 kph, best overtaking zone into the jailbreaking turn 1. Lots of side-by-side action can be seen here. Exit of turn 2, stay on the outside for opening up the entry to 3 and 4. Lots of S's, so you need to be able to set up the car for direction changes very precisely as we go up the hill. Turn 7, ramp wants to come a little loose as we go over the crest. Short break for Deckner 1 and then prepare for a heavier braking into the banking. Deckner 2, easy on the exit, don't go too wide as the AstroTurf can be unsettling for the car. Into the hairpin we go. Very important, the exit here, lots of traction required as we're going through the right hand bended straight. Up into 7th gear before going back to 4th, into spoon corner, a little bit of throttle, then braking to make it to the inside here on the apex and spoon corner, then take away all that exit performance, going down the back straight to coming to a very fascinating corner, the 130R, flat out to the left, and then heavy braking zone into the Casio triangle. Don't hit the anti-cuts as they can unsettle the car, kiss those curbs nicely, and then going down the power, try to stay on the medium or to the inside of the road, opening DRS, and that is one flying lap, guys, around the circuit here.
Welcome back to Matsusaka. Of course, a big thank you to our sponsors, 3D Rap Sim Lab and Basita eSports, along with VCO as well, on the broadcast side of things for 2022. But yeah, we're here 53 laps ahead of us for the Japanese Grand Prix, round 6, the 6th race at least of the Formula SimRacing World Championship in 2022. It was a good qualifying session, Lewis, but we can't really draw too many conclusions. There's a lot to unfold over the next hour and a half.
Absolutely. I mean, great qualifying from Jan Wojnitzer, of course, on pole position, in prime position to take victory on it. But there is a circuit that you can race at. It's not one of those ones where you kind of think pole to win is a guarantee. It's not normally the case around some of this. So Alex Tieber's got a really good chance to win. The concerns, though, come from the likes of Colin Spork, who ends up being moved further down that qualifying position. I think might be starting this race from 8th place. It's going to be a bit of work from a driver who was coming into this with full confidence, not only to continue on the podium streak, but also to maybe continue the winning streak as well and make it 4 on the bounce. But it's going to be very, very hard from there.
It certainly is, and 4 on the bounce for a driver only in a second season is really quite remarkable indeed. So yeah, we'll see if he can make it there, but it will be probably his most impressive win to date if he was to be able to do it from there. I think he's starting 7th, but he's certainly on the 4th row. That's in 7th or 8th position. That is back in the pack, and we haven't seen him back in the pack too much yet this season. He has done a lot of pole to win kind of victories, so it'll be interesting to see how he goes in the pack so far. What do you make of Burst Esport in that race? In that qualifying session as well? Row 5 for Mitty Hoyer and Damien Skrovron. Hoyer did huff and puff. He just about managed to out-qualify his teammate.
I don't know. It's not where we expect Burst to be. Of course, their focus is not so much on the Formula SimRacing World Championship, but still, to be there in 9th and 10th is not great, especially considering we know that there is a lot of collaboration from them between Burst and the Oracle Red Bull Racing eSports bunch. And to say that there was not it wasn't a small margin between them. Mitchie Hoyer did a 27.464. Alex Siebel and Dennis Jordan both got into the 27.1s in that qualifying session. That is quite a large margin to those that you're working with. I don't quite know how drastic they are working together, but still, that is not great for Burst.
No, unfortunately not. Let's take a look then at the starting grid for the Japanese Grand Prix here in the FSR World Championship for 2022. Of course, it's going to be Jan Voslica on the pole position after that great qualifying lap. Alex Siebel couldn't quite better him. He'll be starting from 2nd with Jonas Brakstok in 3rd ahead of Dennis Jordan. The 2 Red Bulls landing up on the outside together. Then it's going to be Zoltzuks and Sander Callas for an all-ground effect row 3. Colin Spork Championship leader 7th place ahead of Noah Roivers in the NetRex car, 3rd place in the championship coming into today. He's 8th on the grid for now as we get to the burst row, 9th and 10th. It's the NetRex Grand Prix row as well for row 6. Ivan Leonov has qualified Adam Rainey there in 11th and 12th position. Then we have Lauren Kiersmakers for Edge in 13th ahead of Victor Ivanov. And another burst Simplexities, but this time row with Robin Panzer and Tom Oldenmenger lining up in the 15th and 16th positions. George Tatsipantelis, fresh off of a Pro Championship race start, 17th ahead of Roberto Pinataro, and Alero Alpicus will be starting in the 19th position for Super Venturi, rounding out your grid for this race. 53 laps ahead of us at one of the most difficult circuits on the calendar in terms of driving on your own. The guy's just about half away around the formation lap. Strategy, as ever, going to be oh so important once again. We're not going to be able to really tell what tyres are on until they really get underway, but from the early indications, we might have a couple of medium runners up towards the front. Of course, it remains to be seen how easy it is going to be to overtake, because in real life, especially in the Formula 1 races here recently, it has been quite hard, and so that will have to be factored in to all of the strategies that these guys are employing today.
Yeah, of course, I do have a couple of aids to get them past, push to pass, and DRS, if memory serves. Yeah. In effect, that said, the DRS zone is only the one on the start-finish straight around here, because I don't think you've got any zone, second zone that's quite big enough. You don't really want to use it down into 130R, so it's just the one on the start-finish straight. It's a long run, though, down towards Turn 1. It's about, I think about a kilometre and a bit from the Casio Triangle all the way down to Turn 1. So that with push to pass and DRS should see plenty of overtaking, especially as we're talking strategy. We're talking 2 or 3 stops around here. Absolutely.
As we saw, indeed, in the we can normally draw on the Academy and Pro races earlier in the day. Of course, we've got reruns here. I know we had a rerun of Pro earlier, but that was for Silverstone, so we can't really draw much from that, I'm afraid. Well, you can if you like, but it won't be that useful. So we'll maybe not do that. As the drivers pull up towards the line, it's certainly going to be an interesting race, and we're certainly looking forward to it. Matsuda Circuit being tackled here once again in the Formula SimRacing World Championship. You see the guys just in the background pulling up towards their grid slots. A little bit of a break to the Burst eSport guys. Panzer and Oldermenger just taking their time. Well, it seems there's somebody shuffling around in the middle of the pack there as well. Can't see who that is. Leonov maybe. Who's shuffling around. I don't know how allowed that is, but either way, he doesn't look in his grid slot. Let's hope he is, and he doesn't get a penalty for that one. Either way, the lights are about to come on, and we're about to get this race finally underway. The tension will be rising for all of them here at this stage as they wait for the lights up above them. And here they come. Lights going on now. The Japanese Grand Prix here at Matsusaka. Voznica versus Siebel on the front row. Who's going to get down towards Turn 1 first? It is Voznica resoundingly by looks of things, but Siebel has accelerated well on the inside line, and he will challenge him into Turn 1, and he will get the lead. He is successful, and he will lead the field into the S's for the first time. Voznica displaced into seconds. We go further back to the Burst guys who are battling with a couple of NetRex cars in the lower part of the top 10, as that's Colin Spork off the road. Through the S's, and there's contact behind. Spork drops to 8th place. He gets challenged. At least he's still pointing in the right direction. Same can't be said for Damien Scrobron, who has gone around. I think Richie Hoyer went around.
Yeah, it was Hoyer that got spun around on Colin Spork's rejoin. Colin Spork was going side by side with Dennis Jordan through the S's, and that's what pushed Colin Spork wide. Not 100% sure as to whether there was any contact and all that. Awful start, absolutely awful start from Dennis Jordan, who went from the second row of the grid all the way back to 7th, but the race leader Siebel is out strong. I was wondering if he was going to get a good start. He obviously had a good line into Turn 1 with the inside one, committed well, and Jan Wojnitsa was basically a sitting duck.
He certainly was, and there's not a lot you can do around the outside through that first couple of turns. You've just got to sit there and kind of fall into line up through the S's. So Siebel, Voznica, Braxuk, Zooks, Callas, your top 5, although it's about to change because the ground effect cars go side by side through 130R. Callas down the inside there. He's up into the 4th position as Voznica just closes up into the final chicane. And there may be an opportunity into Turn 1, but it is a little bit difficult when there is no DRS just yet, because we get that at the end of lap 2. But then it's a little further after that as well. So Voznica will have to wait a little bit, as Spork has indeed got through on Dennis Jordan. Not taking this one lying down is the German, but he's going to have to, because Spork is indeed up to 7th place again.
He had a lot of push to pass being used, did Colin Spork, and now he's got to worry, does Dennis Jordan, about Ivan Leonov and Adam Rainey, of course, Spork's teammates as such in the Formula SimRacing World Championship. Let's take a look as to what happened with Colin Spork on the start. I think it's a decent start, but watch for Dennis Jordan dropping backwards into him.
Yeah, Dennis Jordan did not get a good start at all. Off the line even, he was falling backwards very quickly. And then the two of them side by side, so both ground effect cars are through. Already a little bit of contact throughout turn 2. Then we go up through the S's, slight side to side, and Spork does a fairly good job to hold on. A questionable rejoin, it has to be said there. And I think that resulted in the demise of Mitty Hoyer on the outside line.
I also think that he really turned in a little bit too much on Dennis Jordan there. So the contact was obviously front wheel to rear wheel. And now what has happened to Zolt Schuch, because he's dropped back behind Noah Roivers, he's got Colin Spork to worry about. So Zolt Schuch going a little bit backwards for the Grand Effect SimRacing car. This is also, it's not going to last. Push to pass being used from Roivers and surely from Spork as well. He'll try and get past into the triangle or maybe even to 130R.
Oh, he's got one wheel on the grass as well. Oh, Spork very nearly came unstuck completely there. Unfortunately for him, he keeps things on the straight and narrow, and he dives again, going towards the final chicane as well. Wow, that could have been a lot worse for quite a lot of cars. It's all very close indeed. Zolt is falling through the field a little bit at the moment, but he is on medium tyres, let's not forget. So this is all part of the plan, if you like, for ground effects. Side by side again, Colin Spork does manage to make his way through more successfully on this occasion, but Sooks is in for a very long first stint here. Not only is he on a harder compounded tyre, but he's also got a load of soft runners behind him. He's going to get overtaken a lot.
Colin Spork's not really driving like someone like Jone Simoncic and Bonhouse have done in the years prior, where if they're in a position like this where they're in the mid-pack, they go through one by one methodically, using their head quite a lot. That move into 130R, or the attempt there to leave two wheels onto the grass, and even the look into the Casio triangle, that's aggression, that's raw aggression. Don't get me wrong, it's always great to see and all that, but why would you go for that move when you know there's a DRS zone and a good place to use push to pass directly after the Casio triangle for a great move down into turn 1, which is what Colin Spork ended up doing on Zolt Schuch? Why take the extra risk in even trying to make it side by side to 130R? That's what I don't quite understand there, and so I think Colin Spork needs to just rein it in a little bit. Otherwise, he could see himself with a DNF next to his name if he's not careful. And the problem with that is that when you're in such a strong championship lead, you can't afford that.
No, even though he mathematically cannot be caught today, it is he can be caught in the future, so he does need to be careful of that, of course. I think it comes down a little bit to the experience level, doesn't it, of the likes of Simoncic and House. They've been in the game for years and years and years. Spork just has not at this stage, and so it does need that little bit of experience as we go on board with Vosnica round the outside into turn 1 and 2. Siebel does not want to give this lead up, but he's going to have to, because Vosnica sweeps around the outside into the first turn. It's a very nice move, and it's back to the lead for the pole sitter of this race.
Yeah, super move there from Vosnica. So to go around the outside at turn 1 is always a bit of a brave one. Yes, assisted by DRS, but still a great little attempt. Janis Brakshock and Sander Kallas had to worry about Sander Kallas going down into the first corner. Janis Brakshock on the mediums. A few drivers are on the mediums, of course. Janis Brakshock, Zolt Schuch, the entire runners from 14th down to 18th. You can tell that Ilari Alpes, by the way, is brand new to the Formula SimRacing World Championship in this Formula Pro car, because it's on the hards. And I can tell you that anyone with any experience in the Formula Pro car would not run the hard tyres in the month of Sundays. It is not a tyre that really works. And yet somehow he's finding some paces, keeping up with Roberto Pignataro in 18th position at the moment.
Yeah, he is keeping up with the back of the field somewhat remarkably, because we haven't seen those hard tyres run pretty much all season long. Yeah, that's a brave one. We'll see how it pans out as we look at Zolt Schuch, who's been in amongst a lot of the action so far in this race, and I don't think he's particularly proud of the fact either. Not because he's been causing trouble, but he's just been overtaking quite a lot so far in this race, being on the medium tyres. His teammate has been having a lot more joy, though, on the softs, of course, and he might be able to take Brakshock into the Casio triangle, but does not on this occasion at least. He decides to wait for turn 1, although didn't really stay as close as he needed to at all through that section of corners.
Baffling. It's the whole thing of, like, if you're going to look into there, at least try and keep up. Obviously, the idea would be to not look in there, and then you'd already be clear. But now Sander Kallas has got to take a bit of a risky move into turn 1, and that's the thing. Had he not kind of wasted time with the half sort of look down at the first corner, he would already be through. That was a pinch. That was Rainey round.
Rainey trying to go down the inside of Schuch there, was trying to follow Ivan Leonov, who made the move successfully. He wasn't quite able to do it. He drops behind the two burst eSports drivers, does Rainey. Let's have another look at what happened down in towards turn number 1. There's Leonov right in front, and Rainey's well placed to actually follow him through, but does he just look a little bit too late here? Zooks is already not happy about giving up one place. He doesn't want to give up two. Very nearly crashed on one occasion, and
terrible.
very nearly again. Yeah, Rainey down to 15th.
I mean, that was just really not very smart from Adam Rainey. I mean, the first part of the little kick, fair enough, but then you always know with that corner, yes, it's a double apex corner, but you can't just half-heartedly send it down to the second apex. You've got to use your brain. That car is always going to come back across. A costly mistake from Adam Rainey, and one that didn't need to be made, could still be in 10th position in this race. Obviously, it is a long race left, but still, that one, not the wisest move, but it is one that we do see an awful lot around here, but I think we can all look at that and be like, well, there were wiser decisions to have been made there.
Possibly.
I think there's much of a possibly about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to be neutral, really. just trying to cause any trouble. Meanwhile, Callis is trying to get in front of Braxock here. Going down towards turn number 1. 5 laps complete in this race, and the two leaders just running harmoniously together. Here comes Callis down the inside, and he's finally got his move done. Stayed a lot closer in the Casio triangle, and that was very telling when they got down towards the actual corner.
Yeah, super effort there from Santa Callis. It was much better and cleanly through. Now we'll chase down like Sebo. I do think he might be using his tyres a little bit too much in the early stages, because it kind of would have made more sense for the top two to have pulled away a bit longer. It kind of makes me think that they might be saving the tyres a little bit more, but obviously all of this lot have great pace anyway. Obviously only 5 laps completed as well.
Mitchy Hoyer is into the pit lane here for an early stop. I wonder if, I don't know, well, I'm pretty sure there wasn't any damage, although there may have been in the last few moments. He was in a battle with Adam Rainey, who's trying to recover. Let's have a little bit of a replay, shall we, and have a little look. It's down towards 130 yacht. We're on board with him at the minute. It might just be a normal pit stop that I'm freaking out a little bit about, but
there's a car
let's
right.
see. Oh, there is a car on the outside. It is Adam Rainey trying to make his way through, and my goodness me, Hoyer goes spinning around to his teammates. Very nearly get into him. There's side-to-side contact with the barriers there, and that will have been suspension damage for Mitchy Hoyer. That's why he's into the pit lane so early on in this race.
Yeah, we'll need to see that one, I think, on board with Mitchy Hoyer. It was Adam Rainey that was going around the outside of him at 130 yard there. And from my eye, from the off-board camera there, from the TV camera, I think Adam Rainey did give enough room there. It's quite hard to tell, and it kind of gets the vibe that Mitchy Hoyer's drifted out a little bit into the side of Rainey, and that's kind of what's unweighted that side of the car and spun him around. But yeah, either way, crazy stuff.
Around the outside for the lead once more. Siebel makes his way through. Back to the front. We're seeing a ping-pong match, basically, between these two at the minute. And once again, another lead change on lap 7. And the Red Bull Racing eSports driver is back to the front again. Jan Bosnica currently in second place. These two losing a little bit of time to these guys. On board with Noah Roivers, who's recently made his way through on Jonas Braxock on those medium tyres. A little bit of correction at the top of the hill at Dunlop there. Callis in a podium position at the moment. They're all trying to catch the two leaders. This race could come back together almost in its entirety here in the next few moments, because the two leaders are battling quite hard. These guys are going quite fast. I reckon we're going to see a big leading group soon, although not like that. Sander Callis skates it into the hairpin.
Wow, obviously picked up a little bit of grass in the braking zone. That was excellent car control from Sander Callis. Has lost a second from all of that, but to be fair, that is not bad to still be in the race. Is sort of the main target there. You're absolutely right. This is all coming back together again. It's not so much that it's an intense battle between Alex Siebel and Jan Wojnicki, because they're only really switching on the start-finish straight, so it's not that crazy. But it's just the fact of a little bit of push-to-pass usage, a little bit of aggressive driving from Sander Callis, from Noah Roivers, Janis Braxock being able to keep up, and Colin Spork is now knocking at the door as well. I think Colin Spork could clear Braxock going down into the first corner and make it all soft runners in the top 5. And Colin Spork is on a charge to return his way back up towards the front, because he's still looking at 4 on the bounce. Here comes Jan Wojnicki for the lead.
He wants to get back to the front again. He's going to be successful with a squeeze down the inside, very close to the pit wall, but the Polish driver's back to the front again, and Siebel is back to second. That was not the conventional way round, but he's made it.
I mean, there was a gap there. Alex Siebel started drifting off the wall. Jan Wojnicki thought, that's my opportunity to go through, and boom, straight down the inside. Mitchy Hoyer, what has happened to you again, sir?
He's not having a season to remember, is he? And off the road again, I'm afraid. He's back on again, thankfully, without major damage, but he's held on. But dearie me, it's not been his season. As I said, he's third last in the last 2 years, but he hasn't been really at his best. Obviously, he got COVID earlier on in this year as well, which probably halted his progress. It forced him to miss a round. But I was thinking about this a little bit earlier. I can't help but feel the incident that we saw late on at Spa involving Mitchy Hoyer, involving Dennis Jordan, I'd feel like a 2020 Mitchy Hoyer or a 2021 Mitchy Hoyer doesn't get involved in that somehow. I feel like something is just not quite right at the moment with him, at least in FSR anyway. For the moment, I don't know what it is, but he's not having a season to remember.
I mean, all drivers are affected by confidence, right? That's it's a well-known thing of sim racing and motorsport generally, that it's a confidence-based sport. Bit of a lock-up there from Wojnitsa. For Mitchy Hoyer, though, he seems to be very affected by confidence. That's what we saw at the start of 2021, where he was unstoppable. And now when he has a few bad races, it just builds and builds and builds. Exactly as you were saying earlier on, it goes both ways. You have great races, you have bad races, and they all build. Colin Sport, by the way, did get past Janis Brakshock, so he is now up into 5th position. So it is all soft runners in that top 5, and they are all basically in one big train.
They certainly are, and that's great news for us. It's going to be very entertaining indeed. It's a late breaking move into the Castillo Triangle. Would have caught the Hungarian off guard a bit, possibly, because I wasn't expecting him to make it there, but either way, he has done. He's got the DRS as well, of course, because the detection zone is indeed before that corner, and so he's taken the double whammy there, and he's up to 5th place. Is our championship leader with his main rival, or is at least the runner-up at the moment, Alex Siebel. Only in 2nd place. The amount of points he is likely to gain or might gain is going down and down and down. And Siebel, as I said a little bit earlier in this race, he needs to gain points, as does everybody really. Royver's included in that, Jordan as well, if he's still really a serious championship contender. They all need to start gaining points right now, because we're in the second half of the season.
Yeah, and we are approaching the checker flag of the championship very, very rapidly indeed. You know how it always goes. You kind of think, oh, we've got loads of rounds to make the move. And then suddenly it's like, wait, it's the penultimate round of the season now, is it?
Yes.
It's always how it goes in these championships. Colin Sport, by the way, will be firing on all cylinders to try and catch up to the back of this train, but he's not going to be within the DRS zone, which kind of makes you wonder if he'd have stayed behind Janis Brakshock into the Castillo Triangle and then made the pass down into turn 1, would he have lost as much time from trying to make that move? Obviously, it's kind of one of those things you weigh out. I don't think it'll matter too much, because he's definitely got the pace to catch the top 4, but could have already been within the DRS zone. No, Royver's tyres don't look particularly great, and it kind of opens up the question as to when we're going to see the first pit stops around here. Expectation is it's to be around lap 15 that we'll see the drivers get off of their first soft tyres, and I would expect they're going to go from soft straight onto soft.
We'll see what everyone goes for. I hope we do see a bit of split strategy. That'd be nice. But if everyone runs the same thing, then fair enough as well. We already know that Brakshock is going to be, and indeed Zooks, they're going to be main players in this race, doing something a little bit different, because they've started this race on a different set of tyres to most, at least inside the top 10 anyway. So we'll see what they have got up their sleeve for the remainder of this race. On board with Noah Roivers at the moment in the Netrex P1 Sim Grand Prix team at the minute. His sort of teammate Colin Spork is right behind in that 5th place. Well, I say right behind. He is behind, just a couple of seconds down the road in that 5th place. Of course, championship leader Roivers at the moment in 4th, with Sander Callas, who is sticking it up with these guys in that 3rd place again. Becoming less and less surprised to see him in these places. I was at the start of the season, because he wasn't one of those guys in a very strong field. I expected to be picking up podiums, and he hasn't done so yet, but he's been right in the conversation for the ever since round 1, really. He didn't have a great day round 1, but after that, he's been right up there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of how these seasons go. Like you say, it's hard to say. Oh, there we go, Pitter in Jan Wojnitsa. So Jan Wojnitsa straight into the pit lane, the teammate of Noah Roivers. It's kind of how you have it with these seasons, though, is as much as like it's kind of easy to be like the strength of field has dropped off quite a lot. And yes, it's because we've lost the likes of Jene Simitic and stuff. But Noah Roivers, Colin Spork, all these drivers are still incredibly strong. We've kept Mitchy Hoyer, we've kept Dennis Jordan, Alex Siebel and stuff. It is still an incredibly strong field. And it's just that it's how things go as a championship moves on. You can't keep the same drivers for the entirety of their sim racing careers, which don't get me wrong, I'd be all over keeping Bonner-House on the grid. Jan Wojnitsa onto the medium tyres, interestingly enough.
Yes, interestingly enough. Let's see, just on that point, but by the way, I do actually think this has been, even though it's turned out to be Spork obviously doing very, very well indeed, one of the most open World Championships we've seen for absolutely years. I can't remember the exact stat we figured out on the first day of the season, but what 7 years since we've had no previous World Champions on the grid. I think 2015 might have been the last time we had no previous World Champions on the grid.
Did we? Yeah, no, that was right. Because, it was Bonner House who'd won the championship the year before, and he wasn't on the grid in 15, yes.
Yes, and he'd won loads before. Nobody else had a chance. I could feel it. But yeah, here we go. Battle for the lead once again. Sander Callas down the inside. The Cassia Triangle's becoming more popular as a place to overtake, and Callas is all too happy to take that opportunity to get up into the lead. Siebel will sit in behind and go into second place, but Ground Effect SimRacing do indeed have a leader, with Callas at the front of this race as Noah Roivers follows his teammate in to do something very similar, you'd imagine, and put the medium tyres on. The only worry I have for them is the amount of traffic they are going to encounter.
Yeah, which is obviously quite a large thing. As much as you can pass around here, it's not easy. It is indeed mediums for Noah Roivers. Like I said, it's the traffic. Roivers has done well to get past Ilari Alpus, but it's not Alpus that's the problem. It's the fact that he's got Older Mega to catch. He's got Panzer, and the two of those are quite close together, and of course the Burst Complexity duo. I don't know how much they're going to work in favour of the likes of Siebel and Jordan, but they're probably not exactly going to pull over to one side and allow Jan Vosnitz to pass. No,
absolutely not, as Sport runs a little bit wide through the second Degner there, but he's still on the road, thankfully for him. The only problem for Vosnicker, as I mentioned there, is that they're on medium tyres. They're not going to be coming in for a little while yet. He's going to have to do that on the road, whereas these guys still out front and making time, they might not have to. Which is the only downside in the NetRec strategy so far, but we'll see how it plays out, of course, over the course of this race. Sander Callas still leads from Siebel as side by side with Ivanov and Kiersmakers down the inside, making his way through the other unicorns of Lubcar, moving down to ninth position. Don't know what that was all about, but off the road for Ivanov, in quite a big way.
It's so easy to make that mistake going down into Spoon. You overcommit, you can get onto that curb, and the curb can just pull you off, and suddenly you're away into Narnia. Sander Callas into the pit lane. No shock to see Alex Siebel going further than everyone else, because we know what they're like with their fuel mileage in the Oracle Rebel Racing eSports camp. They do like to go much further than everyone else. But what tyres is Sander Callas going to go on? A reminder that Vosnitzer and Roivers both went onto the mediums. Callas also onto the mediums.
He is, and he's right behind the Burst G-Sport guys, so that's not great for him as he comes out just ahead of Noah Roivers, although that gap is a bit smaller than it was before. Callas has come from the lead, of course. Roivers was third as he came in, about 1.5 seconds behind the Ground Effect car, so Siebel's almost certainly going to come out behind Roivers. If he leaves this too much longer, he was going to come out behind... he's going to come out behind all three of these, isn't he? Vosnicker is the one who's really making time at the moment. 1.5 seconds out front, pitting early. But now comes the problem. He's on the back of Tom Oldermenger going under the bridge. How long is this going to take is the real question here. How efficiently can he get through traffic?
Boom.
Well, a dive down the inside of the hairpin is exactly what he needed.
Yeah, and he needed to properly commit to that. Now it's kind of whether he's going to use a bit of push to pass here. He's not going to do it. It would be a risky move to get down the inside of Spoon. He's probably going to wait until the Casio triangle and absolutely send it down the inside of the Swede that now sits directly ahead of him. Got to make sure you nail this apex. Lovely. Certainly does so. Brings it into that second one. It's obviously grip differential and stuff, but he manages to pull up to that second apex at Spoon, which is so intensely difficult to do. In the slipstream, using push to pass, it's going to be into 130R.
It is, it's down the inside, so it shouldn't be too difficult for him. He's got to leave the room at the exit, and Panzer made sure he wasn't going to get involved in an accident there by running off the road. As around the outside for Sander Callas, he's unsuccessful, and this is the problem. This is the problem for Callas. He's not successful because Oldermenger was desperately trying to get in the pit lane there. He didn't want to be blocked out of getting into the pits. Roiver's not too far behind as we see Siebel emerge from the pit lane behind all of these guys.
And he is on the mediums as well. So Siebel pitting a couple of, let's say, now obviously he could have taken on more fuel, so he could be going for a longer stint here. So he still could be aiming for the two-stop strategy rather than the three. I'm pretty sure that Vosnitzer and Roivers at least will be heading straight for a three-stop strategy, going super aggressive on this. It's kind of one of those interesting things with racing around these kind of tyres around a circuit like this, is you've got it open to try a two-stop, to try a three-stop. Pit lane is quite fast, but still, I don't know, yeah. Realistically, it's not very good for Siebel. He's lost out, but if he can just close in, get the slipstream, get up to the DRS, to be fair, might not be so bad. It'll be in the train, and you know you can pass around here.
Yeah, he's not out of the race. He's just made his life a bit more difficult, really, with this latest development. As down the inside, once again, Sander Callas makes his way through on Robin Panzer, although there's contact, and they both run wide. Roivers takes advantage, and he might try and have two here. Oh, very sideways and nearly off the road. but he just about stays in the right place. Thankfully, has a bit of push to pass and will make this move around 130 by looks things. Around the outside he goes, the two of them almost touching through there. Great racing between the two. Inside line for the Casio Triangle, and he does have it, although Callas will respond, coming down the home straight once again. Siebel is involved here as well. It's a great freeway battle coming into turn one. Where's Colin Sport going to filter out in all of this? Because these guys are fighting so hard. He's unfortunately going to be behind them, but Callas is going to be right round the outside, and he's back in front again of the Dutchman. What a great fight this is.
And it is the golden ticket to Jan Vojnitzer, who's now got a 2-second lead over this group. He's in 6th position at the moment. Colin Sport comes out behind, and quite a long way behind, by the way. 4 seconds arrears of this battle. So that is a very slow stop for Colin Sport, but it's more medium tyres. So clearly that is a tyre to be on stint number 2. I was expecting more double stints on the softs early on, but I think they might try. If you're doing a 2-stop going soft, medium, medium, obviously tyre wear around Matsusaka, is quite high. You do burn the front tyres out quite significantly around here, and so in that sense you do want to play the long game of tyres. That's why we're going to see quite a few of these stints on those medium tyres.
I don't know what that circuit is beginning with S that you just said there, but
no idea, never heard of it.
No, I don't think it exists actually.
It's the region, it's the city that's nearby.
Well, yes. Anyway, out through curve and down towards 130 yard again. Siebel just biding his time at the moment, fancying his chances maybe with Roymers, although a little bit of push to pass once again from the Netrex driver just ensures that these three are going to stay equidistant from each other for the moment. The three of them just about 2 seconds behind Bosnica, who now comes across Damien Scrubron in the order right now. That's a pass for 5th position, and he should have it done down in towards turn 1. He's even got the DRS to help him as well, as they all pass Ivanov, who makes his first stop of the day. Vosnica is indeed, well, he's putting up more of a fight than I was expecting there, Scrubron. But Vosnica makes his way through. And so we're up to 4th position for the moment. But what is going on here with Dennis Jordan, and why is he staying out for so long on these soft compound of tyres? What is he intending to do on the strategy here today?
Maybe he's trying to go soft, medium. Just to clarify, by the way, and to correct a point that I said earlier on, because I said that maybe Siebel's taken more fuel. Of course, that is a Formula Pro thing. Not a Formula Sim Racing World Championship. We don't have any refueling and such in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship. We did last year though, so I can at least be forgiven on that. But yeah, there is no refueling in this. It's just the one tank from start to finish. So even still, it was just a slow stop from Siebel, but he is right involved in this battle. So it's just about really what Callas could do to clear Damian Skovron and catch up to Jan Vojnitzer as his Colin Spork and Robin Panzar going side by side.
It's scarier than you think going through that long right-hander there side by side, but Spork has made that work anyway, and he is up to 9th position. Of those who have pitted, he is 5th at the moment, but we get to see where Dennis Jordan is set to get himself into this train. As we go on board with the Netrex driver once more, Sander Callas' turn to make his way through on Damien Scrovron. You can see that car just up ahead of us coming into the final couple of corners. A big jump across the curbs from the Estonian, but he stays on the road and push to pass for everybody. DRS as well. Scrubron is going to get overtaken by quite a few here. Definitely Callas. Will Roivers be able to follow him through? No. There's good straight line speed on that Burst G-Sport car, and this is going to hurt Roivers badly following him through the S's.
Yeah, this is not ideal. Roivers was desperate to get through, but unfortunately didn't have the opportunity. But now the desperation really does come. So where is the opportunity for him? The next real one is going down into the hairpin. But by that point, he's already going to have lost an awful lot of time to Sander Callas, who's already on the hunt. And by the way, it's already closed in half a second to Jan Vojnitzer. And yes, that was a big moment into Dunlop.
Yes, he had a big lot of arms and elbows there, but manages to keep it on the road. Good exit here, and he might be able to do what Vosnica did to Oldenmenger earlier on, although no, he's not able to brake late into the hairpin and make his way through. He's going to have to wait for Spoon Curve, which is coming up next. Is there going to be a chance here, maybe? But this Burst Esports car is fast in a straight line. Not fast enough, though. It looks like Roivers is going to make his way through. Inside line, always a risky one, of course, but Scrovron backed out of it. Didn't want to hang himself around the outside, and Alex Siebel now will be sure to make his move. Roivers has actually made Siebel's life a lot easier there by making that overtake. Scrovron very much in the clutches of the Red Bull man now.
Yeah, but the problem is that Scovron's getting the slipstream from the car ahead of Noah Roivers. I nearly thought the Roivers were going to go wide at Spoon there. Here's Alex Siebel looking straight to the inside. See you, Roivers! Oh my goodness!
and he's kept it on the road. That is amazing. He's done a 360. He's joined on the opposite layout of that chicane, and he's still going. That could have been a remarkable accident, but he's kept it going, and now he's side by side with Colin Spork. The two of them rub on the straight, but Spork is going to make his way through. Noah Roivers, his heart rate will be sky high after that, and mine is as well, because that was remarkable, but he's still in the race.
You see, the cool kids would call that kind of driving absolutely based. I would call it absolutely terrifying, and I certainly wouldn't try it myself. Either way, those tyres that are fairly fresh, they're not going to be so fresh right now. Let's see as we'll ride on board with Rovers. I think we do. I mean, it's going to make people a little bit sick, but you'll see what happens. As you go to 130R, he gets too far over to the left-hand side in the braking zone, going down into the Casio triangle, and just as you tap it, boom, see you, son. But the almost a little bit of the 2-foot hack save there, which is the bit that flicks the car back the right way. Of course, the two come through, rejoins safely enough, just using an alternate layout of Matsusaka.
Oh, off the road for Zooks, who was looking good earlier on in this race. He's out of the race. It's at the top of Dunlop. We was talking about earlier about how difficult it is over the crest there as the car gets light through the left-hander. It is a very tricky corner. We've seen, was it Vosica earlier, who really had an armload of opposite lock going up there. Looks like Zooks unfortunately has come unstuck there as we go on board with our championship leader, Colin Spork.
Oh my. Right
on the back of Damien Scrovon, and every sense of the word indeed meant by that, and good exit from him. He was so close to the back of him, it was fairly academic in the end. Down the straight, he's going to make his way into what is fourth place now, because Janis Braxtrup comes in from what was the lead. So Vosica is back to the lead now ahead of Callis, Siebel, Spork. Scrovon is fifth, but he has to pit. Roivers is in sixth position. Panzer also has to pit. Then we've got Leonov, Braxtrup and Jordan, the top 10. After that long first stint, Dennis Jordan has indeed found himself quite a long way down as we look at Zooks' crash a little bit early on. Is that August,
yes,
maybe?
It certainly is Ilari August. Dennis Jordan as well is right there. Let's see what Zoltsuch does. Dennis Jordan back to the inside.
Jordan got involved. Wow.
It wasn't Jordan's fault. It was the overcorrection from Zoltsuch as he was trying to put too much power down. Boom, the rear end snapped around. He's gone straight into the side of Dennis Jordan, and boom, he is out of the race. There it is on board. Bit of a shame there.
Yeah, it's a big shame. I wasn't blaming Dennis Jordan there, by the way.
Not a place we want to see an open wheeler crash, unfortunately.
Oh dear, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's not nice. Yes. Meanwhile, at the battle up front of the field, fifth position at the moment, Scrovon using a little bit of push to pass just to keep ahead of Roivers, who's having to make this overtake again, of course, after that 360. This very place a couple of laps ago. You see there the way the road kind of bends to the right slightly on the way into the chicane. It's not quite a normal entry to a chicane, that one, and it caught Roivers out on that particular occasion. It's dropped him to sixth place, but he should be back inside the top 5 now. DRS, and this is a slam dunk move.
It's why a lot of drivers tend to give a bit more room to the braking zone there to the left-hand side. Janis Braxtrup, by the way, is about to get past Leonov into turn 1, and certainly does so in that unlarge competition car. So Braxtrup's on the charge back up. Dennis Jordan's now into 9th position, courtesy of the pit from Robin Panzer, who now drops all the way down towards the back end of the order. Decent move there from there. Robin's, of course, quite an easy one in that sense, but he's just trying to recover a little bit. And I know you didn't say it there, but I will say it. It was a 360 no-scope. That is what Felix van Delft, our broadcast director, was saying in our ear, and he is not wrong on that one. But the top lot have all separated by quite a bit now. The top 3 are separated by a second apiece, but everyone else, obviously, after one by one getting through traffic, they've all lost their own fair share of time. Yeah,
absolutely. Interesting to see where this race goes next, because at the top 5 at the moment, all on the same strategy. Braxtrup at the moment, the only one on an alternate strategy. Well, I guess he goes Scrovon in 6th place as well. But of those who have stopped, Braxtrup the highest on an alternate strategy in 7th place. He's on the mediums again, though, so he's not going to be closing gaps particularly quickly as we look at George Stratopantlis getting things a little bit wrong into the second Dagnet. And one of the awkwardest places to stop, actually, as well. He's had to take a long time getting going again. But thankfully he has done without crashing into anybody, which obviously we're a big fan of. And so he's back on the road again in 16th position. But yeah, just wondering where the next real gaps are going to be closed. I guess Dennis Jordan is one to look out for, because he's lost a lot of time staying out so long.
Yeah, he did go a few laps longer than everyone else. Damian Skovron is into the pit lane, and there is the move from Dennis Jordan straight to the side. He ended up pitting 5 or 6 laps later than most of the top contingent. Remember that Jan Wojnicki came in on lap 10, Roy was 11, Callas 12, Siebel 13, Spork 14. Those are the laps they all came in on, moving down the order. So, to be fair, based on the fact that, potentially going for a 3-stop strategy, Jan Wojnicki is actually not a million miles away from potentially making his next stop. However, I will say, this points in this train, he's had a 2-second lead. I think he could be leading by more if he was going on the attack and was definitely committing to a 3-stop strategy. I think potentially trying to look after the tyres to go a little bit longer to try and drag him back onto a potential 2-stop strategy. Although to do so, you have to go around about 10 laps further and get to about the lap 31, 32 mark, which might be a tall order, but I think it's more than possible. It's just about underdriving the car to the right degree, whilst also trying to keep hold of the race lead and also worrying about Sander Callas behind and Alex Siebel not far behind and not letting Collins. It's a lot to juggle. It's basically what I'm saying.
It is a lot to juggle. Callas and I take your point about Wojnicki really, because I don't see a way that Callas and Siebel have reeled Wojnicki in while he's on full attack. Because I just don't think that would happen. As see side by side here with Ivanov making his way through, and Albus, who's still not made a pit stop in this race. He's the only one, I believe, in this field now to have not made a stop so far. He is on the hard tyre, but he finally does now see to the inevitable, and he locks the brakes into the pit lane to make his first tyre change of the day. We go back up front because Callas did have a bit of a sniff into turn 1 there of Wojnicki, but wasn't able to make the move here. It's an interesting conundrum between these two because they've kind of got to keep the pace up to make sure that they keep going away from those behind, but also they kind of both want to be leading at the moment. They're in an awkward position. There's no doubt about that, and Callas is sort of certainly if I was driving Callas's car at the minute, I'll be half and half with going for this move and just trying to keep the pace up and keep a single file. So difficult to know what to do in either of these cars at the minute.
It's about going for the move in the right place, though. You don't want to make a move into here, for example, into Spoon, because you lose time doing it. It's what I was kind of saying earlier with some of the moves that Colin Spork was making. Same with Noah Roivers. Big moment there from Jan Wojnicki. But you're trying to make a move like into the Casio triangle. It's not a great place to go for a move because you're side by side through the triangle. You lose time for doing so. If you're still side by side going into the S's, you lose time for doing so. If you can get the slipstream, the DRS, and the push to pass all to work by keeping nice and close, as we're seeing here from Sander Callas, is a great time to go for a move for the race lead because you don't lose time from doing so if you can get fully alongside and fully ahead before turn 1. But clearly the straight line speed with a little bit of push to pass from Jan Wojnicki is plenty strong enough to keep the Estonian at bay.
There's a nice exit there as well from the chicane for the Polish driver, and he stays in front of Callas again into turn number 1. Siebel just at a bit of a distance right now, 1.5 seconds away, and can't quite close those extra few tenths that he needs to get some DRS of his own. Then we've got Colin Spork 3 seconds back from the lead at the moment. 4th place, and considering he started from 7th, he has made good progress so far in this race. He can be very pleased with his work so far because if the race were to end right now, Siebel would only gain 3 points on him and that championship lead would barely be dented.
And that's kind of, I would say it's, damage limitation and stuff, but I mean, let's be honest, Colin Spork has got such a championship lead, and I am certainly not one to rule him out for a 4th consecutive victory and the 5th one of the season, because right now he is rocketing his way up this, and it's a driver that knows how to win, knows how to battle for a win as well. It's not as if every single race victory that he's had has come completely from the front. Has still had to work for quite a bit, whilst a couple of them have been in the most dominant fashion to even compare it to the likes of Bonnerhaus or Jone Simicic, but still, for this sort of race, it is one that he could potentially lead. The important thing is that the leader is not a million miles away. In fact, he's 2.6 seconds away, and that is not a margin that is insurmountable. So definitely in. Jan Wojnicki is staying out. I think he's definitely going for a 2-stop strategy here.
Let's see. He's definitely about to lose the lead. There's no doubt about that because Callas is down, is inside into turns 1 and 2. And the ground effect car makes it into the lead. Although a big slide and Callas is going to lose it straight away by the looks of things. Side by side into the S's, round the outside for the first part. Should give Wojnicki the place, but Callas fights back. And the two of them still go side by side. And after all of that, Callas does hold on. It's all got a lot closer though. At the front of this field, Callas, Wojnicki, Siebel, all covered by half a second. Colin Spork not too far away. That was a lot more difficult than it needed to be.
Yeah, and that's it, exactly it is. They're all closing in. It's not so much the immediate ones behind of Sander Kallis and Jan Vojnica that's the issue here. You know, of course, Alex Siebel and Colin Spork. It's the fact that Dennis Jordan and Janis Brakshock will use it to close in. There's that moment. I mean, great hands to catch that, but it's another time we've had a big moment from Sander Kallis, and this, what a display.
Yeah, great racing between the two, and not a hint of contact either between the two of them. Oh, well, saying that,
Nice,
there was there. So there was a hint of contact, because there actually was. So there you are. But Kallis is back to the lead now, and he did indeed very, very well to get it as well. Although now we've got 4 for the lead, and they've all got DRS. Meanwhile, that was all happening. Noah Roivers came into the pit lane to put another set of medium tyres on. I can't see those going to the end, though, so it looks like a 3-stop for Noah Roivers in this race. Are we going to see something similar from Vojnica in this group? We are indeed. The Netrex guys are going for 3 stops today.
Which is interesting. I mean, I was kind of expecting Vojnica to go, like you say, a little bit further and try and turn it into a 2-stop. Going for a 3-stop around here, it's hard work. Colin Spork, I think, is definitely going for a 2-stop strategy. It's onto the mediums again from Jan Vojnica, which of course counters exactly what Roivers is doing. Both of them going onto the mediums once again. Colin Spork was the last to pit from that group. Sander Kallis came in on lap 12. Colin Spork came in on lap 14. So, it is what it is in that bunch, but it just is what it is in that sense. Absolutely,
it's you kind of got to deal with it. I mean, when you're in that situation of Vojnica trying to stretch it out, if indeed we believe we now know that he was not trying to stretch it out for a 2-stop race. However, when you're in that situation, when you've kind of committed to a 3-stop race, you committed. You know, you can't really go back afterwards. You can't go back anymore, because the tyres can only go so far. So you kind of stuck yourself in that particular situation. So there we are. It's difficult for Vojnica to turn the tide on that one. Meanwhile, let's see about these 3 leaders. How much further are they going to go in this one? And what is going to be the difference between the 2- and 3-stop strategy here today? Vojnica just under 18 seconds behind the leaders at the moment. But meanwhile, we're having a couple of problems with the broadcast. We'll have to pause very briefly. We'll be back in a couple of moments once we've got things fixed. Welcome back to the race here at Matsusaka. Apologies for that small little technical interlude, but we should be back now with no problems at all. That's hopefully that is all behind us. As I was saying, Vojnica currently 18 seconds away, it's now 17, away from the leaders. What is going to be the delta between 2 and 3 stops, though, in this race? That's the question. How much time can Vojnica gain on the road versus these guys who are out front at the minute? That is the ultimate question that's going to decide this race.
That certainly is. And of course, I think strategy is going to play its part. For me, with the speed differential that they've been having right now, I don't see a 3-stop strategy winning around here. I see it being a 2-stop strategy victory right now. So I see it coming from the likes of Sander Kallis, Alex Siebel, Colin Spork, and hey, even I am going to throw Janis Brakshock and Dennis Jordan in there. I mean, if I just keep going, Ivan Leonov, basically anyone on the grid can win. I'd say it's between those 5, really. But that's kind of rough, ruling out Jan Vojnica and Noah Roivers. But as we hit halfway in this race, even if you don't count out the 3-stop strategy, we're talking of realistically about 7 different drivers that could potentially win the Japanese Grand Prix here in Formula Sim Racing. And that is so cool to have so many. Who's that going slow? Is that Adam Rainey?
Is it?
No, it's one of the Netrex cars.
It's Leonov. Is it? It is Leonov. It's Leonov. It is Ivan Leonov.
Why?
He's just coming to a stop completely here.
Technical fault. That is a wheel. That is a wheel issue if ever I've seen it.
Yes, the most obvious wheel issue you've ever seen, actually, down the main straight. Hopefully, he does not get hit here, because he's just stopped on the home straight. Let's see how
it might be his pedals.
Possibly. Let's see.
Let's see as we go out of the final corner. So keep your eye on the steering wheel. So he's in second gear.
He can still accelerate. He can still change gear.
He is indeed. And then it's gone there. I don't really know. Something's gone wrong, and he's trying to reset it, but he still has steering at the point. That's the important bit.
And he can accelerate and brake as well.
And so what
They're
we're going to
the 3 important things. So what is broken? here. There's the wheel reset.
That's disconnecting and then reconnecting.
Yeah.
Do not know what has gone on with Ivan Leonov, which is a bit of a shame because he was running in decent position up inside the top 10.
Yeah.
But that is what the more things that cool kids would call it, a solid F.
Oh, and he's still stopped down the straight. I really hope he's in the middle of the road.
I think
as well.
he needs to retire right now. He does need to pull the plug from this race. That needs to be a solid. Like, this is one of those things where as race control, I'd step in and be like, right, yeah, you can pull to one side right now, because that. You're in a really dangerous spot right in the middle of the road, and whilst, yes, everyone's race is important, yeah, that's a no. He's done everything that he can right now, and I'm sure he's trying to stay in the race, but he's not exactly going to take a massive haul of points right now for NetRex Grand Prix, and there he is retired. That decision could have been made a little bit quicker.
I don't think they can be blamed for laying off being in the middle of the road. I don't think they were expecting that, but either way.
Well, still had steering. He could have pulled off of the road.
I agree, but he had bigger things on his mind at that point, I think, personally. Anyway.
He's still got to take into account all of the other competitors.
Yeah, I know. Okay, anyway. we're not again to a discussion about this anymore. Meanwhile, on board with Noah Roivers, who is on the back of Damien Scrovron, having a fantastic race here today. The new Burst eSport driver for the 2022 season in the World Championship. Anyway, really impressed in our Indy Pro season during the winter. Finished 6th over that. And I have to say, we're expecting maybe a little bit more from him this season, but we're starting to see some flashes of maybe what we're expecting at the start of the season. As we get towards the middle now, Scrovron is starting to look like the driver we saw last winter.
Yes, indeed. It's a bit of a shame that Scrovron hasn't sort of taken to this championship so well. But again, it's a learning process, bit by bit, with the car. Has struggled a little bit in Formula Pro as well, but it's finding his pace. Noah Roivers closing in that slipstream, but not quite close enough to get to the inside into 130R. So I think there's going to be a classic move into T1. Bit of DRS, bit of push to pass as well. Of course, Roivers really needs to get on with this right now. His teammate is 7 seconds down the road in 6th position. I think this move is coming from Roivers now.
It is indeed a bit of push to pass, a lot of DRS, and 9th place by the looks of things for the NetRex driver. He does indeed make his way through, as Roberto Pinataro has come and stuck out of the hairpin for some reason on the run down towards Spoon. That's a strange place to have found the barrier, but it looks like he might have done on that last lap, as Adam Rainey makes what is going to be probably a penultimate stop of the day for him out of the hairpin. Meanwhile, for the leaders as well, Callis still leads Siebel and Spork, who was right on the back of these guys, but he's lost about a second or so. Don't think that was a mistake in of itself, but just generally losing a 10th here or there, and he has just fallen away ever so slightly from these two leaders now, who are 1 and 2 half a second away. Still, 24 laps to go here in this race. Still a very long way and a lot still to play out. We're really no closer to knowing who's going to win this race.
No, and the more that Jan Vojnetsa close in on that top level, the more I'm sort of like really factoring him back into my my analysis of the race victory. So maybe it is between at least the 6 of them. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, the checker flag is still a fair way away. And with Adam Rainey, by the way, making that second pit stop, I think his chances potentially of getting a 4th consecutive top 10 finish in the Formula SimRacing World Championship is also potentially coming to a close. But I did almost rule him out in the previous round at Spa, and yet somehow ended up in that scenario after a couple of mistakes earlier on. So it's sort of like, yeah, fair enough. Who knows?
Who knows? He's already got damage here, Roberto Pinataro. And no real win.
Quite a bit.
That is quite a lot of damage there. How has he managed to get all that? I might take a guess at Dunlop Curve, possibly. And this is too fast. There we are.
It might be. Oh, no, I was going to say it might have been into the second Degner, but considering we've gone back to Michi Hoyer here, we are quite significantly earlier in the lap going through the S's.
Place your bets at home.
Okay.
The corner before, it just gets things wrong and overcorrects. Once you're into the grass and the gravel there, you are a passenger. Straight into the wall, and Pinataro's pretty miserable season continues, unfortunately.
I was desperate for you not to be right there as well. I was like, please don't be Dunlop. And he was getting closer and closer. No, the corner before, we're all good on that one. That is absolutely fine. But no, I mean, that's a costly mistake. It's easy to do, though, especially because he was on the hard tyres, and there's a reason we don't see many of the front runners ever really taking the hard tyres. Yes, I know we saw Ilari Agpas taking one earlier on in the race, and now we see Pinataro taking them. We don't see the likes of Siebel or Jordan or any of the Unicorns of Love ever taking that hard tyre, because to be brutally honest about it, it's quite rubbish. It just doesn't have the grip. It doesn't go as long as you think it'll go. It's not like you can do the whole race distance on it. It's not a particularly good tyre. You're better off taking the mediums and going on the attack, because when you go into a moment like that, if he was on a soft tyre, he might have actually been able to catch that and carry on. Just how it goes.
I take your point there. I mean, Alpes is in 12th place despite the hard tyres.
Yeah, right, which is great effort.
It is, to be fair. Really was not expecting that from qualifying and from the hard tyres at the start of the race. They've turned out all right in the end, so that's still a long way to go, of course, but running well as things stand. Through the Degners again for the leaders, and Callis is racking up quite a few laps at the front of this race now. Will he lead lap 53 though? That's the most important thing. He's got a lot to do before then, namely see off Siebel and Spork, and maybe Braxover's Road now 5 seconds behind. When he came out the pit lane, he was 10 seconds behind. Of course, he was one of the last to stop for the first round of stops because he did start this race on medium tyres. He's half that gap now, and he will be on softs at the end of this race. Just keep your eye on Jonas Braxov there in 4th place.
I mean, this is a fascinating little battle between these three. Of course, Colin Spork again looking for his 5th victory in the Formula Racing World Championship of 2022. Alex Siebel, despite his consistency, we've well known that Alex Siebel is, I think we can all kind of say, pretty much the single most consistent driver in the World Championship. He comes into the pit lane though on the end of lap 31, and with his first pit stop coming on lap 13, I think this is definitely just an early final stop. It'll be out onto the medium tyres once again. That I can almost guarantee. But for Siebel, he's despite being so consistent, he's only looking for his 2nd victory. He only won at Indianapolis last year, and that hasn't had a victory.
Yeah, remarkable consistency. It is soft tyres for Alex Siebel. It is a 3-stop strategy for Alex Siebel. Wow, this really has thrown the cat amongst the pigeons.
Unless he is so we know. Yeah, okay.
22 laps.
It's too long to go on the softs. Yeah, that's what I was. Spork did 14.
Laps.
22. The car is lighter now than it was earlier on in the race. Obviously, the heavier the car, the more that you burn the tyres and stuff. That, for me, and don't get me wrong, I know that Alex Siebel is very, very good in his tyres. That is too long.
It's too far
on these softs.
It is too far, and Siebel is going to have the bit between his teeth now. Lauren Kiersmakers is going to be his first victim by the looks of things. Nearly down the inside towards the hairpin there. Didn't quite go for it there, but surely this position is not going to last much longer for the Edge eSports driver. 6th place is going to be Siebel's very soon. Inside line in towards Spoon Curve. Just make sure you don't have any contact and get yourself a penalty. That'll be even worse at this stage. He does indeed make his way through, as we see nearly side by side for the lead. Sander Callas now all under pressure from the championship leader Colin Spork. Are we going to see any reaction here? We do. Sander Callas is into the pit lane. Is it mediums or softs? Because we reckon the mediums can make it from here. The softs certainly cannot.
I think mediums. I think he's going to go onto the mediums because I think he's going to have seen that Alex Siebel was come in to take his final pit stop, which obviously is not what was going. Slid into his box and boom, it's straight onto the softs. Never mind.
It is mediums. It is
medium. Okay, no, I thought I saw a bit of white paint through.
Yeah, same.
A bit of it. Jump the gun just a little bit. Indeed. But no, that makes a lot more sense to me. But I still don't know what the right strategy is. No,
nobody does, as Noah Roybers makes his way through now. He pitted a lot earlier on medium tyres. He's not making it to the end, and he found himself in quite a lot of traffic. So while he was supposed to be getting a nice undercut on those guys, he's actually found himself behind all of these guys. Just like to cast your mind back to the first pit stop cycle of this race, where Alex Siebel got monumentally undercut by everybody. He was leading.
Yes.
He ended up 4th. He came into this pit stop cycle, interestingly, first of everybody. He was very desperate not to let that happen again.
But this is the thing, is that maybe if from this point, if he is taking that was the penultimate pit stop, what he's going to do is he's going to go super aggressive at this point and then pit with about 10 laps to go. So he's going to split the final 20 laps of the race, obviously, in half, and he's going to go super, super aggressive because there's no way that he's taking these soft tyres to the end. I don't know. No, I don't know.
Especially with the vigour he has just taken those soft tyres out on. We saw him there on the back of Kiersmakers. Wow, Siebel was on a mission, and those tyres are not going to be making very many laps around this circuit. He was destroying them as Callas makes his way down the inside at 130. Oh, it's a squeaky one, and he's made his way through, thankfully, into 6th position with no trouble in the end. Kiersmakers down to 7th as we see championship leader and race leader Colin Spork come into the pit lane. Where is he going to end up? Is he going to be behind the ground effect SimRacing car, or has he had really good in lap here. Let's have a look. He's nowhere to be seen on the right-hand side. He comes out behind Keersmakers as well. It is medium tyres for Spork. So, side by side with Roivers. Goodness me. These two teammates, sort of, going side by side into the S's here at Matsusaka. Spork will be very glad he got that move done before these section of corners. So, of those we believe are going to the end of this race, Callas leads Spork by a good few seconds there.
Yeah, we are expecting Wojnitsa to come into the... Goodness me, Spork. I mean, he's straight out of the pit lane and is obviously not hanging around a little bit, and you can't make a move into the Degners. It's too tight there. Little bit of a mistake there from Laurent Keersmakers. He pulls it up to the second apex, but the move is coming here. But he's got to do it around the outside. He's committed the wrong way. He's got to go all the way around the outside of the hairpin. Is it going to work? I mean, he's going to have a great drive. Yeah,
best Kamui Kobayashi impression, and he does it out of the hairpin. Nice acceleration, nice traction on the exit, and up to 6th place for Colin Sport. No, Roivers will be making another stop here in this race, and I'm afraid he's already behind these guys on older tyres. Things are starting to fall apart a little bit, I'm afraid, for the man who's 3rd place in this championship coming into today. But what is Alex Siebel thinking here? I always trust the Red Bull guys with the strategy because they are excellent at it. They basically won the Virtual Endurance Championship 24 Hours of Le Mans last weekend because of some very good strategy on their side of things. But this is... I've never questioned Red Bull more. I've got to be honest, because this is a real turn up for the books.
But I do remember when we did... Do you remember when we did the first season of Indy Pro, and we went to VIR, and Jerne Simoncic did a 4-stop strategy, which we were both saying, absolutely not, no way, that is not going to work at all. And then he came out on that final stop way ahead. Yeah. And it's just like, right, okay, fair enough. I was expecting him to not even get inside the top 10 in that race. And so it's kind of at that point, same as with the Oracle Red Bull Racing eSports, but obviously, same camp and stuff. I don't think there are many people that are better on strategy, arguably in SimRacing, but at least on the rFactor 2 platform than this kind of bunch. So I include Oracle Red Bull Racing eSports and the Burst eSports bunch in it. I know we're getting coughed in our ear from Felix van Delft, who obviously does a lot of strategy, but I'm sorry, mate, they are just very, very good in this camp.
They are very good indeed. Not that Felix isn't, but they're better.
Oh, each their own.
Yes, exactly.
I know who I'd want in my ear in the middle of a race, and it certainly isn't someone who eats a pizza.
Lewis doesn't want Felix in his ear during commentary. Never mind driving, dear me. Anyway, Dennis Jordan on the defensive at the moment. Jan Bosnica trying to make up some time. He has done a little bit better on this Netrec strategy that he's employed with Noah Roivers here today. Roivers finds himself languishing his 7th, I'm afraid, but Bosnica battling for 2nd right now. Jordan doesn't want to let it go. Whoa! It's a late defence from Dennis Jordan, who might find himself in a little bit of trouble for that, because Vozika was certainly looking to the inside, but got comprehensively blocked on the way down towards turn number 1.
There was a pretty late move from Dennis Jordan on the defence, and he had a penalty last round at Spa. This is dragging Alex Siebel right into it. He's obviously closing in an awful lot now. Jordan moved very late. It was more of a reactionary move, but you could maybe argue that he moved at the same time that Wojnitsa moved, so it's each their own. We'd obviously have to take another look at it way after this battle has been dealt with, but I'm sure Race Control certainly will do post-race, because I'm sure that feisty cups is not going to be dealt with. And obviously, Wojnitsa has not passed Dennis Jordan yet, so I'm sure we might see something close to that. Looks to the inside going into the hairpin, but there's no real opportunity there. Jordan's driven slightly off of the apex to get a nice straighter run, and now Siebel is knocking at the door. But where does he go? He can't surely do Spoon.
Well, he's just trying to put him off, I think. Trying to look to the inside into Spoon Curve. Out of the second part, and here we go. Siebel will be looking to take the both of them here, but Bosnica does not want to get caught in this sandwich now. Outside line through 130R. Can he make it all the way around here? He does, because Dennis Jordan did not want any part of that. He lets his teammate have free rein on the pole just up in front. We'll see if he can make his way through into turn 1, and he really needs to, because he needs distance ahead of Sander Callas and Colin Spork. That he will be pitting again, of course, Siebel. They will not. Vozika weaves around in defence. Siebel down the inside, and there is nothing that Vozika can do, surely. It's a long way around the outside, and he can't make it. So Siebel's into 2nd, but how much distance has he got on those guys who are not stopping again? He's only got 4 or 5 seconds on Callas and Spork.
Yeah, it was super in-race strategy from Dennis Jordan. Kind of as soon as Jan Vojnica had committed to going around the outside of 130 yard, Jordan was like, right, okay, I'm backing out of this. You're going to close right in, Alex Ebel being going to close right in, right onto the rear end, and also get the DRS. And boom, Alex Ebel straight up into second spot and has already closed a second on Janis Brakshock. By my estimates, he's only going to be about 4 laps away from potentially making his final stop. Janis Brakshock will be in the same boat. Janis Brakshock will also be going onto the soft tyres. So if Alex Ebel really wants to win this race, he needs to not only gap Spork and that lot as much as possible, but also needs to catch and potentially pass Janis Brakshock, who will be on the same tyres at the same time as Alex Ebel in the final portion of this race.
Certainly needs to catch Brakshock, and the earlier you can get through, the better, really, for him. So let's see if he can. 3.5 seconds is the gap right now. I have to say, after a slow start to this race, this is turning into one of the best races this season. Absolutely loving it. There's loads of different things going on, and it's very exciting indeed. So yeah, I hope you're enjoying it at home as much as I am, anyway. But yes, Brakshock currently leads at the moment, and we said that quite a few times this season. But is he going to be leading at the end of this race? Look at how close it all is. 8.5 seconds separate the top 6 right now. We have them all in one camera shot here, racing for about 65 minutes at this stage. Absolutely flat out the entire time. 2 or 3 different strategies going on. It is an amazing race as Noah Roivers comes in to make his final stop of the day.
Yes, he does indeed. Obviously pitted on lap 23 most recently and goes on to the medium tyres here, pitting at the end of lap 37. So he's definitely going to the end of the race. I think softs would have been a little bit too early for him to have done so. There's a little bit of side-by-side with Tom Oldenmega trying to get past Victor Ivanov. And he's also got Laurent Kiersmakers to worry about and all of that. I mean, it's certainly more interesting than the other open wheel race that was on in real life a bit earlier on in the day. This is a fascinating race. And honestly, ask yourselves right now, post it in the YouTube chat, who's going to win this race? Because I do not know. I am saying, like, it is genuinely any one of the 6. And that's not even me trying to sort of sit here and be like, oh, wow, who could it be? We just do not know. No,
we really don't at this stage. Look at Dennis Jordan, though. This is so important for this race as well. His teammate Alex Ebel needs to gap Callas and Spork, and Jordan is doing everything he possibly can to help his teammate here. Callas down the inside of 130 yard, though. Right. This should be the move. There's a bit of contact. A slight rub between the two. Jordan's still on the inside here.
Oh my goodness.
And Callas is in the wall. One of the race favourites in the wall. No front wing. And it's heartbreak for the Estonian, I'm afraid. He had a real good chance of winning his first race of the season. And it's all been taken away from him now. What a shame that is for Sander Callas, who has never won a World Championship race in the FSR World Championship, of course. And it's all over for him now. Absolutely heartbreaking for him.
And by the way, Janis Brakshock and Dennis Jordan both came into the pit lane. Let's see then with Sander Callas. So there's a little bit of contact. It's quite a late move to the inside of 130. I mean, he's there though, so fair enough. There's a little bit of contact here. And as Dennis Jordan is there, he rejoins. See, I don't think it's that bad. It looks quite bad worse. From it looks really bad on board with Sander Callas, but Dennis Jordan is kind of there. And as they get onto the brakes, they are both going in quite a straight line. We'll see it on board with Dennis Jordan here. And I think it's just that perfect angle between the front and rear wheel on the right hand side, just knocking it in the right way, and boom, it's sent straight over to the left. I don't think it's as bad as it really looked. It looked so violent.
It did. It looked it looked very
Callas
violent.
looks like he's coming across to the right hand side from on board.
Well, because the track goes that way.
Exactly.
You've got to remember that the track goes bends to the right slightly. So I don't think I think it is definitely on Jordan. There's definitely a mistake there, but it's not as bad as it looks from the Callas onboard. Really disappointed for him though, because as I mentioned, Callas has been having a fantastic season, certainly against my estimations about where I thought people were going to be. Didn't think he would get so many. He's had a couple of or 4th place, a few 6th places, which is a lot higher than I was expecting, in genuine contention for not only a podium today, but in genuine contention for the win. And I think had a very good chance of winning as well. But that has all been taken away from him now, really unfortunately. Dennis Jordan has been in for those soft tyres now. Brakshock as well. Siebel eking out a couple more laps on these current soft tyres before he comes in. Vosnica is going to come in as well. Is it all falling into place for Colin Spork again?
Do you think Vosnica is going to come into the pit lane? I mean, he pitted. Oh yeah, I guess.
He pitted one lap after Roivers, who's already been in for a couple of laps ago now.
Yeah,
And
no, I'm picking up where you put it down. Don't worry. I thought he came into the pit lane at the same time as Constable, was actually quite a lot earlier. He came in at lap 24 the last time. So yeah, okay, no, I'm with you. I think he is going to come into the pit lane once again as Victor Ivanov right in the attack of Ilari Alpes has found himself inside the top 10.
He has. Yeah, well, he still is, we should say, because he's been there for a little while now. He's going to have to, he doesn't have to, but he might well put the softs on towards the end. Came in lap 22 last time because he was the last man to pit in the opening round of stops. As around the outside goes Ivanov right now. Royver's trying to make his way through on these guys as quickly as possible, although I think 6th place might be the limit today for the Dutchman. As we go on board with Ivanov looking up to the inside again, but won't be able to make this move, and he goes sailing off the road, and Royver's is going to have that one very easily indeed. And
Laurent Kiersmakers is also going to be there. That was so close to clearing off the road. Dennis Jordan's out of the race. Dennis Jordan is out of the race. What has happened to the Oracle Red Bull Racing eSports man is another driver to add to the retirement list. He was probably under investigation for the defensive move and then the contact coming down to this section. There is Laurent Kiersmakers straight down the inside.
He is indeed, and that is an unsuccessful move on Ivanov, and Scrovron trying to take them all here into the pit lane for August by the looks of things. There, finally, on those very, very old mediums indeed, as the 4 of them run down towards turn 1. Kiersmakers end up getting overtaken by Scrovron into that first corner there. But let's have a little look then, shall we, at what has happened here to Dennis Jordan. Fresh on those soft tyres, coming up towards Spoon Curve. Has he dipped a wheel on the entry here? No. Things looking fairly good for the moment. Maybe on the exit, something's going to go wrong. Oh dear.
Oh, disconnection. Oh no. That is rough. Because I was very curious as to where that strategy was going to go for Dennis Jordan, but that's painful for him after what has been quite a tough day.
It has been quite a tough day. Probably, I haven't checked this stat in its fullest, but since he joined the FSR World Championship, I reckon this is the longest time between top 5s, because he hasn't had one since March the 13th now, which is 3 months ago tomorrow. That is a long time for Dennis Jordan to be off out of the top 5 even, never mind off the podium or not winning, not even in the top 5. Dennis Jordan has had 3 outside the top 10, DNF, whatever you like, races in a row now, so that is a real shame for my pick. I think he was my pick for the championship at the start of the season, so that's what it does to a person, I suppose. So sorry about that. But yeah, Dennis Jordan out of the race to become our 4th retirement of the day. Over the line again for Scrovron, who's really got a lot of pace late on. That was quite close with Ivanov. Round the outside though, and he does make his way up into 6th position.
Wow, I mean, crazy stuff as well. By the way, if you want to be a bit of a pedant to that stat that you had there of Dennis Jordan, I mean, you could realistically count it as it was the penultimate actual race of 2021, which I'm pretty sure was in July, and then obviously didn't have the top 5 because there wasn't any races between then and February.
Races, then.
Yes,
all right, get out.
You've got to be pedantic sometimes, mate.
Not all the time.
You were there listing off the date, being like, "I'm so smart, it's 3 months," and then actually, I'll have you know that there is a much larger gap between that. Colin Spork, though, in 3rd at the moment, closing in on Jan Wojnitzer, obviously, because Wojnitzer we're still expected to potentially come into the pit lane, maybe this time by. I mean, 11 laps to go. Would actually be a good time to come on to those softs if Wojnitzer wants to make the most of it.
Yes.
Not doing it.
He's not doing it. Siebel is, though. And so let's see. Well, it's obviously going to be soft here, but let's see where he comes out, is what I mean. Here in a few minutes' time. He's got a lot of catching up to do when he gets out, though. Up onto the jacks. He's going to be behind Brackstock. There's Roivers. He's going to be ahead of Roivers by quite some way. There goes Brackstock through the bottom of your screen. What's the gap? 12 seconds to Vosnica. About just 11 to Spork. 11 laps, 11 seconds for Siebel to not only catch but also pass Colin Spork. Brackstock might be standing in his way as well, of course.
This is going to be a pretty tough charge for the German. Again, he has taken a victory in the Formula SimRacing World Championship before. It was last year at the US Grand Prix. Of course, it was the first one of the Triple Crown that we had. I mean, we have seen moves last lap, last corner. It was Gosby back in 2019 in that I said before about the 3-way fight that he had between himself, Simoncic and Boyac. Now, Boyac came into the final corner as the leader before getting a massive dive bomb down the inside from Martin Gosby, who took over the race lead, came through the final corner, and this is how close they were running it in 2019, because as he crossed the line, he not only ran out of fuel, I'm pretty sure he blew the engine as well, because he was in quali mode, and it was the craziest end to a race that I've seen in FSR, to be honest.
Yes, indeed. I wasn't there, so I can't relate. But
it was before your time, mate.
It was before my time. I was only a fetus at the time. As Spork makes his way through, because Vosnik is starting to struggle on those tyres, and he goes onto the soft, goes into the pit lane. So he will be coming out in fifth position by the looks at fourth. Excuse me. Braxton and Siebel will be able to make their way through, and now the chase is really on. Colin Spork is leading an FSR race once again. And if I said that to you at the start of the day, you'd think, oh, what a boring race this is going to be. But it's been anything but. And he's got three very capable drivers, chasing him down on better tyres, softer tyres. Have they got enough laps? Have they got enough pace in their cars to just snatch this one away from him? 5.7 seconds is the gap. About 9.5 laps remaining. This race is absolutely on a knife edge.
I mean, the middle sector and stuff from Siebel on the previous lap was absolutely incredible in comparison. The first sector on this lap, in the first sector alone, he has closed in 1 second on Colin Spork. In just that first sector, it is 33 seconds long, and he managed to catch an entire second to Colin Spork. I know, obviously, this will sort of lose a little bit of speed later on in the stint, just courtesy of the tyres overheating and such, and maybe there was a bit of a mistake in there from Colin Spork, but to lose 1 second in one sector, that is a big, big concern. Obviously, it is the most tyre-dependent sector, but still, boom.
Yeah, he is really on a mission at the moment. It's going to be about 7 seconds by the time goes across the line. It's about 2 seconds a lap so far for the first 2 laps. But you just have to be careful. This is not going to come down at a rate of 2 seconds a lap for the rest of the race.
Correct.
That is going to go down in terms of the gain that he's actually getting here. Braxton being a lot more conservative on his tyres because he's got to take them a bit further. He's slowly been reeling in Spork a little bit more steadily. However, these two are going to become a problem for each other.
I just don't know which way this race is going to go right now. I mean, like, this is the thing, is it ebbs and flows. Early, if you'd asked me 10 laps ago, or talking about this strategy and stuff, I'd maybe speak that my eye would be more on Colin Spork. The first few laps of this stint, I'm leaning more towards Alex Siebel. I think later on in the race, track position is king, but overtaking is not particularly difficult around here. It's a difficult one. It really is tricky. You're absolutely right, though. Before Alex Siebel even gets to Colin Spork, he's got to navigate Janis Brakshock, who is also trying to do the same thing as Alex Siebel, by the way, because obviously it wasn't a million laps before that Janis Brakshock went onto the soft tyres. That's not going to be an easy move, and the two of them could fight over each other hard enough that it gives Colin Spork the advantage. It is certainly a three-way fight once again here at Matsusaka, though.
They could lose the race between the two of them if they're not careful. I was actually, around this point in the lap, before Callis' accident, I was actually about to utter the words, I think Callis might win this race, because you were asking people who you thought might win. I was about to say that, but as soon as I thought it, he was in the wall, so sorry about that.
The commentator's curse?
The commentator's thought curse or something.
No, I don't. I mean, you know me on the commentator's curse, don't believe in it.
I know you don't believe in it. I don't really either, but it was still a shame to see. I was just about to say, what an interesting situation we would have if Sander Callis was still in this race, because he'll be right up there with Spork at the minute. He was actually ahead of Spork at the time of the accident. The two of them will probably be battling between themselves, with these two battling between themselves as well and bearing down them. We could have had a four-way fight for the win in this race. It's such a shame, and I hope that Callis will bounce back from this one in a couple of weeks' time at the Italian Grand Prix in Monza. Because, he's run really well here today. Are these guys running well enough for a race victory? 4 seconds, 7 laps to go when they get back to the line again. It is so close. It is, oh dear.
It is on a nice edge.
Are these soft tyres going to run out of grip before they get there?
Well, the gain from Siebel was 1.5 seconds on the previous lap. It was 0.7 seconds, so half the gap gained from Janis Brakshock. So they're kind of closing in on each other to the sort of an even degree. Whenever Siebel gains a second, Janis Brakshock gains half a second. It means that obviously Siebel is closing in on Janis Brakshock quite quickly, but they are indeed closing in on Colin Spork. Janis Brakshock, as far as my maths would go, you know how I am with trusting commentators' maths, and with how much the pace is kind of dropping off as the laps going on, I don't think Brakshock is fast enough to catch Colin Spork over the final few laps of the race, but I do think Alex Siebel is.
Well, I think if Brakshock's not quick enough, then I don't think Siebel's going to get there. If I'm
Siebel's right there, right? And this is the thing: is that the gap between, I said that the gap that Siebel's closing in is double what Braxton is closing in on Spork, but the gap between them isn't double, right?
No,
so
I understand.
Siebel's right there.
No, I understand that, but I think Braxton is going to make Siebel's life incredibly difficult because why would he make it easy? He's got a chance of a race win here as well.
Because I think if he lets, I know this is a rough one, right? But if he sits there and he kind of does the math in his head, it is a massive gamble. But if he sits there and goes, right, okay, maybe I actually don't have the chance to close in on Colin Spork. Maybe I don't have the chance to race him. Alex Siebel's going to be right there anyway. Don't fight Siebel. Because Siebel does have the pace to go and catch Colin Spork, and there will be a fight on the final lap of the race, and then maybe something will happen which can gain from it. Either way, you're at this point in the race, you're most likely to finish in third anyway. Why not take a bit of a risk and try and get something even bigger, courtesy of other people's mistakes?
Yeah, I can get on board with the idea. I just don't know if I would think that if I was in the middle of a race, because there's a lot of emotions going through at this stage. Kind of halting at 3.5 seconds here, about 3 seconds now. Spork's starting to use a little bit of push to pass. He's got that little bit saved up, and we're getting towards the end now. And so he just wants to keep them away rather than actually have to fight, because in a fight, I think he reckons he'll lose at the moment with the way these tyres are, and he might be right. It's on board with Siebel at the moment. 6 laps to go when they get to the line here. The gap is 3 seconds, but they need that time, of course, to make the overtake as well. Is Siebel going to be able to make this move here? It's so important for his race that he does, and he knows it. Straight on the push to pass. Yeah. DRS as well. Braxton not fighting it.
Super smart.
He very much has the clear head at this stage in the race. We're nearly 90 minutes into a very physical, very demanding mentally race, and Braxton had the awareness and the tactical astuteness there to just let Siebel through, which is not something you often see with only 6 laps to go.
I was very, very smart from Janis Braxton. He does have to worry that Jan Vosnitzer is closing in. But like I said, if Janis Braxton has any chance of winning this race, it needs to come from Alex Siebel closing in. And I said before, Alex Siebel is closing in fast enough to catch Colin Spork. He's got 6 laps to do so, and he is absolutely going to be there in about 3 or 4 laps' time. It's just about what happens in that battle. If they battle hard enough, Braxton is right back in the mix, and that's what he is gambling on right now. He is trying to kind of hope that Siebel and Spork get into it a little bit.
The two of them both on push to pass at the moment. We don't often see this when they're not in fights, but down the straights at the moment, Spork is just using those couple of seconds, and Siebel responded with a couple there as well, and now Spork again with about a second there, maybe half a second. Siebel with a second himself. The two of them just battling it out, even in the push to pass second stakes. It is a remarkable battle between these two, even though I don't think we've seen them side by side much, if at all, today. But these two are going to be the main protagonists for this race. We haven't even talked about Jan Vosnitzer, I should say, who's in 4th place at the moment. I'm bearing down on everybody because he's on the newest soft tyres of everybody. Only 9.5 seconds away. You get the feeling he is too far away at this stage with only 5 laps to go. If these two and Braxton joins and they have a monumental scrap, then maybe he's got a fighting chance. But realistically, it is between these two, Spork versus Siebel, for a race win, and neither of them are going to want to get this. Going to want to give this up, because Spork is staring 4 race wins in a row in the face, which hasn't happened for 3 years when Simicic got 5. And Siebel, who, as you mentioned earlier, actually doesn't win that much.
Yeah, say only 1 victory to Siebel's name, but he is charging and looking for his second. Vosnitzer, I wouldn't actually necessarily rule him out of grabbing a potential podium here, but he is, I think Vosnitzer is a little bit too far back, but if there is any sort of mistake from Janis Braxton, then it'll be there. Spork is feeling this pressure right now. I mean, what a Japanese Grand Prix we have had here. Yeah. Absolutely superb. I'd say it's certainly, at least thus far, has been race of the season right now. But I think Alex Siebel, I don't think this is going to be a difficult move.
Well, let's see. Through Degner 2 there, Spork really did have his hands full. He did lose about half a second, and it might cost him very dearly in this race. 4 laps to go at the line. How easy is this going to be for Alex Siebel? I think Spork is going to fight this with everything he's got. He knows that if Siebel gets through on him, he's not getting back through. He absolutely cannot afford to let the German through at any stage, and so he's going to defend with all he has. Push to pass and everything. DRS open for Siebel, but he's not getting yet. Closer for the moment. Spork holds on for one time around. Siebel decides this is not the moment.
I think Siebel will wait until the next lap, potentially down to turn 1. Obviously, he can afford to wait. It's a bit risky, yes, but even through the Casio triangle, you knew he wasn't close enough. Did you see him use push to pass? Not even a second from Alex Siebel on all of that. He is saving up. If he's got any left in the tank, which I believe he does, he will use it on the run down into turn 1 on the next lap, and that'll be the critical one. He just is biding his time right now. He's trying to put the pressure on Spork, who is definitely feeling it, but Spork is pretty bulletproof when it comes to pressure, so this is not, I say it's not going to be the easiest move, but if he can time it right, as Alex Siebel does, then it'll make his life an awful lot easier.
He really will. What he might have done is invited Janis Braxok into this, though, if he waits around for too much longer.
Correct. Because
we can see the Arnage competition car right in the background there. It'll only be Janis Braxok's 5th podium, by the way, in the World Championship, and he's never won. So this is still a fairly big result for the Hungarian, either which way this goes, unless he ends up in the wall, of course, as we go down the straight towards 130 again. 3 laps to go at the line. Spork already feeling the pressure coming towards the Casio triangle as much as he can in a straight line. Siebel really sizing this one up now. He needs a nice straight exit, a nice clean exit on these soft tyres. Look at how smooth he is on the power there. Spork all over the place, battling that car. Now here we go. Spork weaves around to try and break the slipstream. He's going to pull to the inside line to try and make Siebel go around the long way, and he can't do it. Alex Siebel can't do it. The German stays behind once again.
Yeah, he tried going around the outside, but he wasn't close enough he wasn't close enough at that point to go all the way around the out, because if you're going to make a move around the outside, you need to basically be ahead before you get into the corner, and he just wasn't close enough to try and make that stick. He needed to switch back to the inside, but Colin Sport was doing everything right there. He was sort of sat awkwardly in the middle of the road, in that sort of pain where you don't know which way he's going to go, and that doubt that crept in for Siebel was enough to make him question which way he's going to go, and this is exactly what you were saying here. Big moment from Spork, once again, but Braxok is only a second back. He's going to have DRS this time by.
He is indeed, and
Voznicka's closing.
All very complicated. I was about to say, Voznicka is going so quickly at the minute. Less than 5 seconds now to these two, who are really messing around, and especially Siebel. He didn't commit at all on the outside line through turn 1. He knows that he's got time on his side. At least another 3 attempts at this, possibly, into turn number 1, or another 2 attempts, should I say, into turn number 1. And so he's biding his time a lot, but he does have to keep an eye over his shoulder here, because Braxok's there, and you might be able to see in this shot as well, Voznicka just coming over the hill there as well. So he's got to be careful of those, and there are only 2 laps to go. Not all the time in the world here for the German, who's only ever won 1 World Championship race before. It's a bumble over the curbs at the Casio triangle. It's not an ideal exit for Alex Siebel, who is on the push to pass. He is on the DRS, and he will still have a go into turn number 1. Spork defends to the inside line. Is it more commitment from Siebel? But no, once again, even we're on the penultimate lap of the Japanese Grand Prix. There's a race win up for grabs, and Siebel is not committed to the outside line.
Voznicka's closing, though. He's only 3 seconds off the rear end of Braxok, and he's closing at around about 1.5 seconds, especially if Colin Spork starts to struggle on the speed. Voznicka is going to be right in this, coming into the Casio triangle on the final lap of this race. Don't count him out necessarily. This is a 4-way fight, a 4-way scrap for race victory here in round number 6. It is so intense between the two of these. Siebel's been close, but that mistake in the triangle, that mistake through the chicane, it's just pushed it a little bit too far. Bit of a lock up there from Sport, but he's going to find the apex. I wonder if he can't do it down into turn 1, and if he has to be a little bit more bold and maybe try something into the triangle. If he dives it in at the right time, he's going to have DRS on the start-finish straight, and that's maybe what he has to bank on.
I mean, maybe you could think he's got his championship head on here, thinking he doesn't want to throw it all away, but his only rival is in front of him at the minute, and he's got to overtake him. He cannot continue to lose points to Colin Spork in this championship. As we go towards the very final lap of this race, he's got to do something about this. He's going to do it now. Outside line to the Casio triangle. There's almost no space there, but he tries to squeeze it around the outside. Can't do it as they come out of the triangle for the penultimate time. Spork is going to be defending like he's never defended before into turn 1, but it might be easy for Siebel. He's going to have the straight line speed here. Spork won't give this up easily, but Siebel's going to race around the outside. He's going to take the lead of the Japanese Grand Prix on the very final lap into turn 1. There's nothing Sport can do about him now. Surely Alex Siebel is going to a race win.
Yeah, super effort there. Siebel, obviously, with that little attack going down to the Casio triangle, he was just getting him offline a little bit, and that was just perfectly timed. He had the overspeed, he had the overlap, and boom, Alex Siebel into the lead of the race. Jan Voznicka's not going to take the victory here just because of where Alex Siebel is realistically, but still, a podium is 100% up for grabs. He's going to try something bold into the final chicane, and hey, maybe Janis Brakshock is going to come past Colin Spork as well.
Whoa! Off the road for Vosnica. Goodness me, very nearly found himself out of the race there through Degner 2. It might be just off the podium, I'm afraid, for the Polish driver. This might not be over yet. Siebel has still only got 0.6 of a second over Spork, and Brakshock is here as well. Is there going to be one last little bit of drama here in this race at Matsusaka? And what a race it has been. A four-way battle for the lead right till the flag here. Siebel, though, looks like he might just have enough. Spork, I think, has got nothing left in terms of push to pass here. He's going to use what he has down towards the Casio Triangle for the final time. He runs out now, going through 130. Janis Brakshock's still got a chance of second place here. Outside line, he doesn't decide to go for it. Just up in front of these guys, though, it's Alex Siebel who's going to take victory in the Japanese Grand Prix in the FSR World Championship. What a race that was, and a worthy winner as well. Alex Siebel takes it from Colin Spork, Janis Brakshock and Jan Vosnica all come over the line within a few seconds. What a race, what a finish, and Alex Siebel on the top step once again.
I mean, a super effort from the top four, really, in all of that. Skowron's, by the way, is just going to come across the line just ahead of Noah Roivers, who did a bit of recovery. But on Spork, let's remind you back. He started this race from 7th position, all the way down in 7th. Adam Rainey's recently dropped past Michi Hoyer and past Tom Oldermenger as well. So it's going to be 12th position, so no consecutive top 10 finish from him, unfortunately. But he might well try and come past Oldermenger into the final chicane.
Absolutely. Let's see if he can. Rainey outside line, not quite going to be able to sneak around there for the inside for the second part, unfortunately. So it's going to be 11th place for Oldermenger and 12th for Rainey. Decent drive as well from Michi Hoyer, by the way, to get up into 10th position away from our cameras. Didn't see him pretty much all day long, but he has managed to get himself into the top 10 at the very least. But we're on board with the race winner and the happiest man in Matsusaka at the moment, you'd imagine. Alex Siebel, who has won another race in the FSR World Championship. As you mentioned, doesn't win a lot, but he is so consistent. It's his 6th top 5 out of the 6 races we have so far. The only unfortunate thing for him, of course, is that we found someone even more consistent in Colin Spork, who's not finished off the podium yet.
I mean, a second place is probably a result that Colin Spork might be a little bit disappointed in, especially considering he came into this round really targeting it. Is where they really found their pace earlier on the season when we first tried racing around Matsusaka, and obviously that's quite a dominant pole, and they would have obviously wanted to race that day, and they were very confident of winning that day. To have had a race go this way would have been a bit of a shame, but he had to do the work from 7th, and obviously that man right there, the Arnage competition of Janis Brakshock, I'm actually going to go maybe a little bit of bold statement, because obviously we've had a lot of very smart strategy, but I reckon potentially I'd go as far as saying the smartest racer of the day, purely based on the fact that I know it's that's such a statement considering he didn't really race too much, but it's the fact that he used his head and thought the podium was more valuable than trying to go for something a little bit more. It was very wise. Also, Alex Siebel, great driver. Terrible showman.
I think he was
trying
to avoid doing his best Will Davison impression there, actually, by hitting the wall. So was that him? I don't know. But yes, anyway, Siebel should probably stick to
practice donuts.
Don't practice donuts.
Practice donuts. Don't need to practice the race. Already got that win. Practice some donuts.
Oh, we might be having another go here.
No, maybe. Surely not in pit lane. Not with the steps around here, mate.
Oh my goodness me, the steps as well. This is getting quite grisly now for Alex Siebel.
Awful end. I think we should remove that race victory.
Yeah, we probably should. Dearie me. Well, that puts a light twist on what has been a very good race indeed. Siebel takes it from Spork and Brakshock, your podium drivers. Jan Vosnica just missing out in 4th. Good drive from Damian Skowron. He's probably best in the World Championship to date, with a 5th place ahead of a disappointed Noah Roivers, you'd probably say. Laurent Kiersmaker's finished in 7th, ahead of Victor Ivanov in 8th. Robin Panzar and Michi Hoyer round out 9th and 10th position. Then you've got Tom Oldermenger just on the wrong side of the top 10 in 11th. Adam Rainey finished in 12th ahead of George Tatsi Pantelis. Alari Alpigas got himself into 14th on his first race this season. Roberto Pinataro recovered from losing a rear wing in that race to finish 15th, ahead, of course, of the 4 DNFs today. Jordan Callas, Leonov Zooks all didn't make it to the end.
Big shame.
Sorry, go on.
No, big shame.
Yeah, very big shame. I mean, imagine Callas in that fight as well. Goodness me.
It's just it's how it goes with these races, though.
Yeah.
You push as hard as you can, then you have those disconnections, like with Dennis Jordan. You push a little bit too hard, you get pushed off. I mean, you get involved in that intense battle between other guys. I think Dennis Jordan, like I said, is going to be under investigation. I don't know which way it's going to go, but it's either way, it's going to get looked at. Same with that defense as well from Dennis Jordan was maybe a little bit too much.
Yeah, I would agree. Certainly on the defence, it was such a small mistake. I think that the thing you've got to remember is the fact that there were such big consequences to that small mistake down at the final chicane can't detract from the fact it was a very small mistake from Jordan, in my opinion, anyway. That saw Sander Carlos into the barriers. So that unfortunate for him. I mean, Colin Sport once again, we'll be joined by him and hopefully the other podium drivers in a few moments' time. Doesn't extend his championship lead, but 36 points, 4 races to go. He will be pleased with how today has gone.
It's a championship, you know my opinion on the championship points.
No.
Sorry, I'm not going to go into it too much. But it's a championship point structure where if you've had a few bad rounds, I wouldn't say it's kind of harsh to say bad rounds from Alex Siebel, but you kind of follow my logic, is that it is really hard to overcome it because the difference between a race win and second place is not as high as it's previously been in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship. There's a smaller percentage between it, rewarding more consistency over a championship rather than the odd race victory and maybe a little bit more brash driving. And right now, honestly, with the consistency that Colin Spork has got, unless something goes dramatically wrong in the final few races, he is a very, very hard man to beat.
He certainly is. We're yet to be joined by Alex Siebel, so we might as well do this in a wonky order and interview Colin Spork first. So welcome, Colin. Good to have you here in the commentary booth. Tell us a little bit about those final couple of laps. It was exceptionally exciting from where we were sat. How were you though? How do you feel after getting second place? I mean, qualifying 7th on paper, it's a very good result. But are you that little bit disappointed?
Not a little bit. I'm extremely disappointed. It's just, it's a shame. Like after the mid-season update, I didn't really have the feeling in qualifying here, so qualifying didn't really go as I wanted. Then at the start, I got hit out of turn 1, got quite bad damage, then pushed onto the grass, and because of the damage, the car really didn't react. Because like when you have damage, you need a few corners to know what the car does. I was like full lock trying to avoid getting back on track, and I came back on track as much left as possible. But unfortunately, Damien probably on a small screen didn't see me, and I unfortunately hit him coming back on track. So sorry to him for that. I tried my best, and then because of my damage, the car was extremely understeery in some corners, and then now it was almost undrivable another. So this base strategy would be quite easy on tires, soft, medium, soft. But my tire was like a percent a lap higher because of the damage, and I needed to compromise my race to go to mediums at the end, which is a shame because otherwise I would have been able to win. And honestly, I lost like 3 to 4 tenths a lap because I think 3 tenths a lap because of the damage. And otherwise, being 1.1 behind the leader, that's really a shame. But I mean, it is what it is. We tried our best after the opening lap incident. I defended how hard as I could, going into in the last few laps, just using all my push to pass that I saved. But unfortunately, one time Alex putting me off into the last chicane, I wasn't able to get a good line out of it. And it was just not able to get the line right. And yeah, I tried, but in the end, P2 coming from what happened in the first lap, it's not too bad. Gaining points on Red Bull in the constructors, which is amazing. So really good job, really amazing job by Victor, doing good points as well for the team. Really good job. And well, let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, speaking of the next one, still 4 races to go. Your championship lead has been reduced slightly to 36 points now, but how do you rate your chances of actually bringing it all the way home and actually taking this championship?
Well, I'm not too sure if you have him crash in one race and the other guy wins. It's only 6 points for that you're in front, so it's very, very close. Of course, I will try and do my best. I'll be fighting for the win every race, and I'll try and bring it home as early as possible.
Absolutely. We wish you luck with that, of course, on the future races. But for now, Colin, thanks very much for coming to join us, and congratulations on second place here today.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Moving on to third again, because Alex Siebel is still not here, still celebrating. So we'll wait for him. In the meantime, we'll talk to Janis Brakstok, of course. Another very good drive from him to get into third place. Welcome to the booth, Janis. Tell us a little bit about those final few laps for yourself. I mean, you obviously got passed by Siebel and then saw Siebel and Spork battling it in front of you. Did you ever really have a bit of a hope of actually winning that race? Did you think you had a chance of that one, or were you just happy to sit along in third?
Yeah, we basically had the chance, but shame of my quali performance again. But the guys were amazing on qualifying, and after it, I've decided to run on two-stop strategy because I prepared a lot for two-stopper. I knew that a lot of guys will be on three-stop, and we had lucky moments with the traffic. But finally, it wasn't enough. 1.5 seconds at the end, but I felt really comfortable in the car. I practiced a lot, and it's a very good result from us.
It certainly is. Second podium of the season as well, of course, for yourself. What is your target for the rest of the season? Still 4 races to go. As I mentioned, a couple of podiums. What are you aiming to do with the rest of the season?
A win, basically.
A win.
Yeah, because I've been waiting for this for 3 years, since 2019 Monza, and with this car, I feel that I have a chance for a win. But there's a lot of job to do to achieve that result, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. We wish you luck with getting that in the last 4 races. Look forward to seeing it. But for now, just congratulations on yet another podium here today. We'll see you in a couple of weeks' time for the next race.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Finally, we have now been joined by Alex Siebel, the race winner, of course. Obviously very pleased after that one. Alex, tell us a little bit about those last couple of laps as well, because that was an exception, as I said earlier, exceptionally exciting from where we were sat. Was it nerve-wracking for you? Were you pumped up as well? What was going on?
Yeah, well, I don't think it was a really good race from myself, actually, because the strategy wasn't the best. I pretty much did neither a good 3-stop nor a 2-stop, of course. So it was way harder than it should have been, or it could have been. But yeah, once I stopped, I thought, okay, the last stop or the second stop was way too late. But then I just pushed and saw, okay, the gap is going down more than expected. And in the last 4 laps, I also choked the last chicane 2 times, and I had like 3 attempts, so it wasn't good there either. But then I knew I just have to get the last chicane right and maybe attack before a little bit, so Colin has a compromised line. And then it worked out pretty well. But congrats to Colin as well for the amazing strategy, and Janos also amazing pace. I really enjoyed that race, and all the fights was really, really nice.
It was certainly very nice to watch as well. 4 races to go in this championship now. You're 36 points adrift from Colin Spork. Do you think you can catch him before the end of the season?
I don't think that I'm looking at the championship, because the point system is the way that you can't gain a lot on yourself. So Colin would have would need a bad race. And I don't think that will happen. He is too consistent for that. So I'm just looking race by race and try to have as much fun as possible. And I achieved it today. So hopefully it continues.
Hopefully it does indeed. Alex, thanks very much for coming to join us, and congratulations on your victory here tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. There we are, the podium drivers at Alex Siebel. Colin Spork, Janis Brakstok here today at the Japanese Grand Prix. Going to bring Lewis back in as well for some final words. I mean, what a race we saw there. That was unbelievably good.
Super stuff. An incredible 53-lap race. It's kind of the one that we wanted a couple of months ago, but we had to wait for it. But I'm kind of glad that we ended up coming back here. Matsusaka is such a brilliant circuit to go racing around, and that is exactly why. As much as in some places and stuff, it is very hard to pass, but in here we had plenty.
We certainly did. Let's have a quick look at the standings, how they sit right now after that particular race. As I mentioned, 36 points of a margin between Spork and Siebel. Roivers 66 points adrift. Voslica is in fourth, now ahead of Dennis Jordan. Jens Brextrup gets up the order as well with that result there, as well as Damien Scrover as well. It's all getting very close outside of the top three or so. So that'll be one to watch over the next few weeks. Speaking of over the next few weeks, in 2 weeks' time, we'll be going to the Italian Grand Prix for the first time since 2019. We'll be visiting Monza, and there it is, 26th of June. Make sure you join us for that. It's going to be a fantastic race. And then of course, our final 3 races coming up over the next few weeks, rounding off at the end of August. Of course. Big thanks to everybody who's been tuned in over tonight, though. It's been a wonderful, wonderful race. I hope you've all enjoyed it. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside Lewis McGlade here today. Felix van Delft has been behind the cameras. And until we see you again in 2 weeks' time, it's goodbye for now.